Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Marvel Magic Case Files. Chapter 81 Halo and Invitation. The glass windows were slightly opened, and the breeze flowed in through the gaps. The morning light swayed and crawled from behind the dark woolen curtains to the open books in a pile of yellowed parchment on the solid wood desk. The bright sun didn't understand these earthworm-like words, it gave up thinking, and continued to crawl forward, crawling along a red robe to a boy. The sudden warmth and the warm wind blowing on the face caused the boy's closed eyelids and long eyelashes to tremble slightly. Sunshine cautiously stretched out his hand and patted the boy's eyes, trying to wake up the sleepy guy. Quickly wake up, it's a good morning. Shit. Shit Lathander. Salomon muttered, tilting his head and blinking vigorously. The annoying sunlight interrupted his sleep. He stood up from the chair, closed his eyes and tilted his head, reached out to fumble for the window, and then closed it tightly. He rubbed his eyes, and after stretching his muscles and bones a little, he walked around the chair and walked back. There was a big bed in front of him, and there were two women lying on the bed, one with white hair and the other with black hair. Italy was in the early hours of the morning, and New York was still the night before. He sent them back at that time, and now it has passed one night. As for Phoenix, he has already followed the Supreme Mage. The battle suits of the Witch Clan are all woven by their own magic power, which is the same color as their own hair. For example, Bunita's is black, and Jones is white. But the problem is that they lost consciousness after fighting Jubileus, and naturally they couldn't maintain magic, including the magic made into clothes. Although the process was a bit embarrassing, the result was good. Salomon removed all the pistols and glasses from their bodies, and put them on Bayoneta's big bed. The quilts were thrown over them, ending all this work. After that, Salomon began to use the positive energy provided by Vizandi to cast the magician's magic to heal his wounds. Due to a large amount of blood loss, Salomon became extremely sleepy and even fell asleep while reading. Until woken up by the annoying sunlight. He walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, took out the uneaten fish from the day before, seasoned it briefly, and fried it, served with fried asparagus and a fried egg. This was his breakfast. Yesterday, there was a violent explosion in the Isabel building, the headquarters of the Ragnar Order. It was suspected of a terrible terrorist attack. Many buildings collapsed. The number of casualties has not yet been determined. The president of the Azaval group, Badr, is missing. Opened the dishwashing cabinet, took out a clean cup, Salomon put the black tea bag in it, poured boiling water, and put the hot black tea on the side of the plate. He turned on the TV, pulled out the chair and sat down at the dining table, sliced the fish with a fork, and chewed slowly. After the wind and rain caused by the Angels and the blockade of Vigrid by Comitage disappeared, the situation on Sun Island was also exposed to the common people. Not much, because even though Vigrid is the territory of the Yizai group, it is still located in the territory of Italy. Even in Italy, where the religious atmosphere is strong, there are grammar colleges, and even schools have fixed religious education time. The excessive fanaticism of the Ragnarians has made many people feel panic. Now that the Pope has reached the back of the Tiber River, the Inquisition no longer exists, and most Catholics are no longer fanatical. Although Italy later signed an agreement with the Holy See to support the clergy, but now is the age of science, rather than church. The Easter of the Ragnar Church, which was scheduled to be held today, has been cancelled. Rescue teams from various governments are stationed in Sun Island to provide assistance. The Italian government appeals to the Ragnar believers to remain calm. The next piece of news. Although the famous arms dealer Tony Stark closed the Stark Group's weapons department, due to the highway incident and roof incident caused by the Stark Group's robot war, the steel he invented, the armor, was identified as a new type of weapon by the White House. Senator Stan is expected to initiate a hearing in the U.S. Supreme Court. Green giants appearing on the streets of New York. Well, the rescue team, and maybe spies, after all, the Yizai group's technological level is very advanced, and those European countries will not give up this big cake easily. There is also Tony Stark, who is indispensable in this glorious era. While thinking wildly, Salomon quickly finished his breakfast. A piece of fish was not much. After washing the dishes, Salomon cooked 2 breakfasts. He also specially added some rosemary, and cast magic heat preservation on them. When he was about to leave first, the door of the bedroom opened, and Bunita and Joan got dressed and walked out from inside. "Good morning, Boya," or "Good afternoon, it can't be good night." Bunita leaned on the door frame and looked at the mystic who was about to cast a spell. "Ah, you have prepared breakfast. What a sweet little guy. Sarasa, does he live with you?" Joan of Arc wore a pair of red-rimmed glasses and folded her arms in her arms. When she saw Salomon, the corners of her eyes suddenly twitched. That's right, the supreme sorcerer sent him to watch over me. Bunita walked to the table and sat down, ready to enjoy the delicious fish. But Joan is not as relaxed as Bunita. If ordinary people use witches, wolves, and various monsters to scare children to sleep, then the witches and sages use the supreme mage to scare children. If you don't sleep, the sorcerer supreme will come to get you. This stupid story goes on for hundreds of years, and almost every witch and sage knows the story of the sorcerer supreme from childhood. Then why don't you drive him out? Jean frowned and said. Because Salomon is a very gentle guy. Bayonetta said, he takes good care of me, big brother. Joan glanced at the fish on the dinner plate, then at Salomon, finally let out a soft snort, sat next to Bunita, and ate like Bunita. But Joan's calm lasted only a few seconds, because Salomon sat opposite Bayonetta. I can no longer tell whether you are Teresa or Bayonetta. Salomon said, what should I call you now? Bayonetta said with a chuckle, you can call me whatever you want, don't you still want me to call you big brother? Okay, Bunita. Salomon raised his eyebrows. The title Big Brother made him a little uncomfortable. Although Salisa and Bunita were the same person, he still felt that Bunita it's better not to say the word. He said, I have something to ask you. Oh? Are you just so impatient? I'm a weak woman who just woke up from a coma, can't I be more gentle? Bayonetta's tone was still full of hints, but no one would take it seriously. If shunned after listening to her words, Salomon's only result was to blush and retreat. This kind of thing has happened several times, and the mystic has already learned a lesson. He took a deep breath and continued, I want to ask the demon that you and Joan finally summoned. I think since you can summon her, you must know something. That's the Queen of Sheba. Joan opened her mouth first, that's one of the original demons. Wait, your name? I just want to know how much debt I owe. Salomon said, Beliar's contract has made me uncomfortable enough, but I found that the Queen of Sheba would actually notice me. I didn't expect you to be a playboy, little guy, Bunita said pretending to be sad, could it be that big sister is not beautiful, you actually like demons? You clearly know that I don't. Salomon rolled his eyes helplessly, but he felt that something was wrong, I didn't mean that, forget it. I want to give Salomon a small gift. Bayonetta turned her head to Jean and said, do you remember what we got after killing Jubilus? You mean, the halo? Joan asked. After killing the angels, the halos on their heads become real, and all the weapons that Bayonetta bought from Rodin are paid for with these things. That's right. Bunita said, anyway, that thing is not very useful to us, I only know that a fallen angel will need it. But now, we don't need weapons anymore, give it to Salomon, there is nothing wrong with it, he is a mystic, and he will definitely be able to maximize the value of that thing. Bunita and Salomon agreed that he would come here again in a few days, and then Bunita and Joan would work together to summon the Queen of Sheba and get the aura of Jubilus from the Queen of Sheba. At the same time, Salomon will also be asked to explore the secrets of the Queen of Sheba. However, before that, where is my Cheshire cat? Bayonetta said, my stuffed animal is gone, and now there is only one Cheshire cat left. You mean my familiar? This is the name given by Salisa. Salomon suddenly realized. Since the battle, he had forgotten about the chubby grey short-haired cat. Although it was a fey creature, it was of little help to Salomon at this stage. Even if the fat cat hadn't died in the accident, Salomon was too far away from the grid now, and he couldn't observe its position through the eyes of the Cheshire cat. Well, I'll call it out again, said Salomon. I need to perform the ritual. Lying swaggeringly in the arms of the rescuers, the fat grey cat chomping on the sausage disappeared instantly. It crossed the ocean and appeared in front of a brass brazier burning various charcoal and spices. This is Salomon magic ritual. Before the cat could react, Salomon picked it up and put it in Bayonetta's arms. If you want, I can hold a magic pet transfer ceremony. Salomon said, this cat will be yours from now on. No need, this is our pet. Bayonetta touched the fluffy back of the Cheshire cat, looking very satisfied, but Joan was a little unhappy, she always felt that Salomon was going to snatch it away, a friend I haven't seen in 500 years. Salomon returned to Carmitage, and now that he has arranged for the future, he will return to study. The mage's job is to study rather than take risks. Of course. Academic mages who have never experienced any adventures are rookies. As for the halo of Jubilus, although he has not got it yet, Salomon has already thought about the use of this thing. That is the mage tower, and he plans to start planning his mage tower now. Jubilus aura is an excellent material for building a positive energy pool. In addition to learning magic, Salomon still has a bunch of books to read, which are all looted from the library of the Holy Cross Church in Florence, which contains the secrets of the Brotherhood of the Holy Shield, which can help Salomon figure out the world details. But within a few days, the Supreme Mage handed Salomon a scroll, which had golden lines and indigo background on it. Salomon opened the scroll with curiosity. The scroll was written in runes, which he could understand. The first line reads: "Greetings to King Midgard, ancient master." Immediately afterwards, there was a large paragraph of gorgeous words of praise, but what these praises described was not the earth, but Asgard. Because Asgard, which rules the 9 realms, is the suzerain of the earth. When the Supreme Mage was just a fledgling, Asgard also came to the earth and repelled the frost giants who invaded the earth. If according to the logic of Asgard, no tax has been paid at all, and the earth where Asgard exists is not known to be the territory of the rebellion, Asgard, one of the overlords of the universe, can send troops to quell the rebellion. The reason why the current earth can avoid this result is because the Supreme Mage used the magic in his hands to fight with Odin, the father of the gods, and won the status of the earth's vassal state, and the Supreme Mage has also become the universally recognized lord of the earth. In other words, the Supreme Mage is like a feudal lord, possessing the power to kill anyone on earth. This is the bloody reality of this universe. Only people with big fists have the right to speak. It doesn't matter whether the national government of ordinary people recognizes it or not, because the earth government recognized by Asgard is Karmatage, and what the entire universe recognizes is Supreme Mage. Only Karmatage and Supreme Mage have the ability to talk to Asgard on an equal footing. It's not that the earth can be independent from Asgard, that's impossible. As the suzerain of the earth, Asgard is obliged to stop the invasion for the earth, just like Vanaheim. The Kree Empire, a military power, loves democracy in Xandar. Any force that wants to enter the 9 realms and colonize the earth must first ask Odin for the spear in his hand. As a product of stellar eruption, gold is one of the common currencies in the universe. Even if all the gold on the earth is handed over to Asgard, it will still not be able to pay back the taxes owed for so many years. Since you can't pay it back, don't pay it back. The magic in the hands of the Supreme Mage is much more powerful than gold, and Odin will not provoke the Supreme Mage for this small amount of money. As long as the Supreme Master and Karmatage exist, Asgard has no military access to the earth, and the earth does not have to pay taxes to Asgard. Having said that, Karmatage still has to give the suzerain Asgard some face, such as what is written on this scroll. The enthronement ceremony of the new king of Asgard? Invitation to watch the ceremony. Salomon saw the end, but there is at least 1 year left. For a long-lived species like the Asgardians, 1 year is the blink of an eye. The Supreme Mage said, "I will take you and Mota there, you have to be prepared." "Ready?" "What preparation?" Salomon asked. His Holiness said with a smile, "A good show." End of this chapter. Chapter 82 The Golden Ark of the Covenant. The bottomless abyss is the most chaotic place in the entire universe, the lowest layer in the universe. Chaos means the increase of entropy. One day, when the universe comes to an end, the abyss will swallow the entire universe. Of course, this time unit is recorded in hundreds of millions of years, and has nothing to do with the current Salomon. The reason why cents are used to describe it is entirely because Salomon is now located in the apartment purchased by Bayonetta in New York, so he uses this currency unit as the Romans do. What the hell, shouldn't the magic pet be the mage's little baby? Why is his magic pet so close to Bayonetta? When Salomon walked into the apartment, he saw Bayonetta was putting a plate of fish on the dining table, and the Cheshire Cat was standing on the chair, with 2 round front paws resting on the table, eager to try a bite. Salomon picked up the fat cat and carried it into his arms, and walked to the sofa in the living room. Seeing the delicious salmon getting farther and farther away from him, the Cheshire Cat meowed aggrievedly. Through the magic contract, Salomon, as the owner, could fully feel the regret in his heart, and those meows were not nonsense, only he can understand. You are not a real cat, you are just a feline spirit with the shape of a cat, you can't let your appearance limit your behavior. The mystic weighed the magic pet in his arms, and he said, "Besides, you are enough fat, I think you weigh at least 15 pounds. Meow. You are slandering. Are you ready to explore the secrets of the Queen of Sheba?" Joan of Arc, who was sitting at the other end of the sofa, put her red-rimmed glasses on her forehead. "I must first tell you that the existence of the Queen of Sheba is the top secret of the witches. If Salisa hadn't awakened her left eye, it would be impossible for us to summon her." "What about communication?" Salomon asked. I asked Phoenix, but it doesn't know anything about the Queen of Sheba either. Since the last summoning, the Queen of Sheba has been a communicable demon, but she is not as easy to communicate as Madame Butterfly. Bunita walked into the living room with the fish and took the firewood from Salomon. The county cat hugged it back. Little cat, do you want to eat this? She said. Meow. Now he finally knew why the Cheshire Cat was so close to Bayonetta. The witch never had a bottom line when feeding the cat. The Cheshire Cat could eat as much fish as there was in the refrigerator. For the past few days, every day has been a fish party. So, where are you going to summon? I suggest going to the mirror dimension. Salomon said, by the way, Bunita, don't feed it so much, this cat will really get fat. Meow. You nonsense. This time we don't plan to summon the Queen of Sheba in full body, we only need one hand, and the magic of the witch family can do it. Joan of Arc said, we will not be so stupid as to be summoned when necessary. A mighty demon. In order to summon a hand of the Queen of Sheba, Salomon activated the mirror dimension and Bunita and Joan also changed into battle costumes. In fact, even Bunita and Joan of Arc are not sure whether this call will be successful, because they are not fighting Jubilus now, and whether the Queen of Sheba will respond depends entirely on her own mood. Telok vovim agraa ors taba ord avago. Emnaol adrapan adnasnrza oxex rockler. After they uttered the incantation, Salomon turned his head away from the summoning action of Bunita and Joan of Arc since their clothes would disappear when summoned. Salomon's behavior was purely polite. Unexpectedly, the summoning went very smoothly. The black and white hair twisted into strands and got into the black-purple summoning spell, and a huge hand came out from the other end. There was a huge palm on the back of this hand. Skull decoration. Most astonishing of all, the fingertips of this hand were holding a small silver cup filled with a steaming black liquid. When the Queen of Sheba stretched out her hand in front of Salomon, he smelled a strong aroma of coffee. The Queen of Sheba's meaning was very obvious. She wanted Salomon to drink this cup of coffee, otherwise he would refuse to communicate. This must be revenge. Salomon muttered softly, but I'm really not King Solomon. According to the legend, King Solomon fell in love at first sight and fell in love with the Queen of Sheba, but the queen regarded chastity as her life, and she was willing to live in Solomon's palace after Solomon swore not to touch her. Until the night before leaving Jerusalem, King Solomon held a grand dinner to see the queen off. King Solomon made an agreement with Queen Sheba that if Queen Sheba did not take anything from Solomon's palace before leaving, he would let Queen Sheba go home. But King Solomon used a little trick. He asked the chef to make the dishes very delicious, and at the same time put a lot of salt in the dishes. After a full meal, the Queen of Sheba was thirsty in the middle of the night, so she sneaked into Solomon's room and drank a bottle. Water. King Solomon, who has been waiting nearby, said, now you have broken your promise and used what is in my palace, so you must agree to my courtship. When we parted the next day, King Solomon took out a ring and said to the Queen of Sheba, I have a feeling that you will give birth to a boy because of what happened last night, and let him come to me with the ring in the future. Sure enough, after the Queen of Sheba returned to Ethiopia, she gave birth to King Solomon's son Menachre. When he grew up, Menachre went to Jerusalem to visit his father and was named the first emperor of Ethiopia. Now that the Queen of Sheba puts the coffee in front of Salomon, he feels that this is the revenge of the Queen of Sheba spanning thousands of years. If the Queen of Sheba is really the queen from the south, then taking out the coffee is the same. As expected. The mystic took the coffee cup, blew it off a little, and drank it slowly. Well, salty. It seems the Queen of Sheba used salt as sugar. Of course, it may be intentional, this is a revenge. It wasn't until after drinking the extremely unpalatable cup of coffee that the Queen of Sheba snapped her fingers in satisfaction, and a huge halo appeared above their heads. This is the halo behind Jubilus, the proof of his rank, and the reward for Bunita and Joan after fighting Jubilus. The halo quickly shrank and fell into the hands of Bayonetta. Immediately afterwards, the Queen of Sheba poked Salomon lightly with her nails. And a golden cabinet appeared in front of the mystic. This chest of acacia wood is covered with fine gold, with gold inlaid around it, and 4 gold rings at the corners, and 2 gold-wrapped poles pass through the gold rings. The whole cabinet is 68 centimeters high, 68 centimeters wide, and 113 centimeters long. On the top cover of the cabinet are 2 cherubs made of pure gold, with their wings outstretched and facing each other. This is the Ark of the Covenant. There are many stories about it, but the legends generally describe 3 things in the Ark of the Covenant. Point 1 is 2 tablets of the Covenant, engraved with the 10 Commandments, the second is a budding staff, which was used by Moses' brother Aaron, Christ's hidden manna. And according to legend, those who touch the ark will die, just like Uah who tried to support the ark, and the Philistines who watched the ark. It is said that the Ark of the Covenant was once placed in Jerusalem built by King Solomon, located in the inner hall of the temple, and it disappeared mysteriously until the 6th century BC. There is also a legend that King Solomon's son, Menachre, risked his life and moved to Ethiopia, the hometown of the Queen of Sheba, before the fall of Jerusalem. If this legend is true, then the Ark of the Covenant appeared in the hands of the Queen of Sheba. No surprise. Now this cabinet appeared in front of Solomon again, but he didn't dare to move it. Who knows what power is in this cabinet, it's better to let the Supreme Mage see it first. The mystic turned his fingers, and a portal appeared under the ark, and he teleported the ark to his own room. Seeing that Solomon did not open the ark immediately, the Queen of Sheba waved her hand rather bored, and unilaterally ended the summoning. So, this is your harvest? The Queen of Sheba gave it to you. The Supreme Mage became very interested in the Ark of the Covenant, but dismissed the halo of jubilees who was placed aside. His Holiness asked, among the knowledge you have acquired, is there anything about the Ark of the Covenant? No. Solomon said, I have never touched this cabinet. I think it's better not to touch this kind of magical artifact without any function. It's very sensible. You are an Israeli. Touching the cabinet at will may have unexpected consequences. The Venerable said, even if it is not, it is better to store magic items of this level in the temple. But I don't believe in God. Solomon said, even so, can't I touch it? Is there no one in this world who can open this thing? It doesn't care whether you believe it or not, and I think that power is an anti-theft measure with the function of identification. His Holiness said, wait until you have mastered all the stigmata, and then try to open this ark. Then you will be the Messiah, and its contents will reappear. I think that sprouting rod may be of use to you. But I don't want the priesthood, I don't think it's necessary, Solomon said, God is not here. I don't think that level of gods need human belief at all, or is it to reflect the authority of gods to formulate so many rules and regulations? I always feel that this is a bureaucratic style. I think you can only say this in Karmatage. His Holiness said with a smile, our greatest suzerain is the eternal God. If you can be recognized by the eternal God, then even if you say this at the gate of heaven no one dares to do anything to you. Do you want to be the Supreme Mage? Teacher, why do you think I want the position of Supreme Mage? Solomon spread his hands, and he said, isn't it good to be lazy? You can never finish learning magic, and the position of Supreme Mage will only slow down my learning progress. There's still time to play games. You really know everything, teacher. Since you don't want to, then I will choose the chosen successor, who is the designated successor of Emperor Weishan. I just hope you don't conflict with him. The Supreme Mage said, he lives in the world of science. It's going to be a little hard to accept. Who? Solomon asked knowingly. He. A phantom appeared in the hands of the Supreme Mage. Oh, I know him, said Solomon. Sherlock Holmes, the most famous detective in London. End of this chapter. Chapter 83. A peaceful soul is not a good thing. I don't know any Sherlock Holmes, but Stephen Strange is a very talented person. Maybe his magical talent is not as good as yours, but he has a vision that ordinary people can't have. This vision is neither you nor I have. The Supreme Mage said, I have arranged the education method for him, and he will eventually become a qualified Supreme Mage. Master, haven't you told other people about your plan? Solomon asked, they don't know what the Holy Spirit means, and they don't know how much progress the materialization of the soul is. But as long as they are human, they will recognize physical activity as life, and once physical activity stops, it means death, and they will feel sad when you leave. This is inevitable. I can't continue to bear it anymore. This world needs progress, and I am only a cornerstone of progress. If my death can make Strange a qualified Supreme Mage, I am willing to do so. But you know, the death of the body is different from the death of the soul, isn't it? When His Holiness talked about her own death, she didn't show any shyness on her expression, instead it was as relaxed as she was talking about what to have for dinner today. The Venerable said with a sense of anticipation that the prank was about to succeed, I am looking forward to how happy he will be when I appear in front of Strange in the future, and he will definitely not be angry because I deceived him with death. If he knows what the Holy Spirit is at that time, the touching scene you are looking forward to will not appear. Solomon said helplessly, he did not expect the Venerable to be so fond of joking, but I think that the Strange may not yet have access to this knowledge, and he will think you are a Halloween ghost, and then cast a spell to expel you just like the routine spell casting on Halloween every year to clean up ghosts. Bet on an apple pie. If you can still eat then, I agree. Until now, I didn't find a problem. The Supreme Mage talked about another topic. Among Kamatage, almost everyone has been in human society, even the children of the mystic family. They grow up in the society of ordinary people, and finally choose whether to become a member of the mystic. Only you, Salomon, you have received the education of me, an old guy, every day since birth. Besides me, there are Athena, all of them are guys who have lived a long time. Now I feel that my education to you is not too advanced. Of course, this does not refer to magic education, but the education of outlook on life. The objections of Modu and Casilios are indeed justified. You cannot bear too heavy an emotional burden at this time. People in the secular world are often polluted by various thoughts, not because of the superdimensional bacteria parasitic on the soul, but because most ordinary people have been receiving all kinds of information since birth. From school, from parents, from friends, and even from social media, all kinds of desires ignite a person like a torch, letting him emit the light and heat that he should, but what follows are all kinds of desires. Desire, wealth, glory, beauty, status, only these as firewood can keep a person burning. This has been the case since ancient times. It is precisely because of this that I asked my apprentices to seek peace of mind. But the problem is, your soul has been extremely peaceful from the very beginning. When you were young, I thought you had autism. I don't see what you crave, your only desire is the exploration of magic, but it's more curiosity than desire, and you don't even know what to do with your desire. You have a lot of money in your hands, but I have never seen how much you spend outside of missions. Buying a second-hand bicycle is not considered an expense, and eating out with Wong is not a big deal, and the snacks in the refrigerator are not a big deal either. What? I thought putting you in touch with Bayonetta would make you better, she's so charming, but I don't see any attachment to her in your eyes. I don't think it's because she's 500 years older than you. You also know that your life will be beyond this time. Tell me, Salomon, do you fear death because of your concern for this world? Salomon was speechless, he didn't know how to answer, because inexplicably, he felt that he didn't have much fear of death, but felt that it was a peaceful state. If not, he would not have talked about death with the Supreme Master. After all, there is a gap in age and experience between the two. Salomon does not rule out that these ideas were instilled in him by the memory of the stigmata, but the authorities are obsessed. Think it's his own idea. Seeing that Salomon was unable to answer, the Supreme Mage continued. All your actions are within the rules. I have never seen you do anything outside the rules. You put your feelings under this, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because there is no one in the world this rule is flawless, even if it is Karmatage's, so is the one I made. You can sacrifice others and yourself to accomplish a thing without hesitation, but you can't judge whether it is good or bad. Right or wrong. This is where you can't compare to Strange, he has the determination to break the rules and do the right thing. You don't have to learn from him, you can't learn from him. Your sympathy for the Corinthians and Teresa is one of the few times you show your emotions. Which is good, because it shows me that you're not completely out of humanity. Although I am very satisfied that you can abide by the rules I made, I don't want your soul to be as old as mine when you are young. Young people should enjoy flowers and fine wine. Salomon, where have you put yourself, a mystic, or a young man? But I think it's fine now. Salomon said with a frown. I don't even feel the desire to explore magic, and the corresponding physical stimulation is only because my body is developing. I don't need a luxury car, and good wine doesn't need wealth and status, I just find those things annoying. The Sorcerer Supreme was silent, weighing his conflicting hopes against each other, but in the end, the softer side prevailed, but only temporarily. His Holiness said, this is your problem, my dear disciple, I hope you are a human being, not a container of stigmata, you need a variety of human emotions, have your own desires, whatever it is. Not like me. In this case, you will be too painful. I don't feel pain at all, sir, at most I feel uncomfortable when making choices. Salomon said, if you think there is a problem with my relationship with Bayonetta, it is because I think our time is still very short. Don't worry too much. That's the problem, Salomon, you have no self-awareness. The Supreme Master sighed, I think, besides learning magic at Karmatage and art at Athena, you also need a normal life, you should not go to school just for the exam. How many classmates do you know? Just in time, Bunita and Jean need to rest, you can also enjoy a normal life for a while, stay away from fighting and killing, maybe young and beautiful girls can make you change your mind. You are forcing me to integrate into the society of ordinary people, sir, said Salomon, and you know that this will not change anything. Who knows, said His Holiness, but it seems Casilios would be more than happy to send you to school for now. That's right, Casilios is the most positive about Salomon's going to school for ordinary people. When Salomon saw him again, he could hardly recognize the man in front of him. He was wearing a pressed brown suit, his short hair was neatly combed, and his leather shoes were polished. The look of bitterness and hatred was swept away. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Casilios smiled as he folded a handkerchief and stuffed it into his left breast pocket. The white handkerchief revealed a perfect triangle. Modu, who was standing beside him, was also very satisfied. He and Casilios had long believed that the Venerable's education for Salomon was too advanced, and it was time for Salomon to experience the life of a normal person. Before joining Carmitage, Mordo was a nobleman, and Casilios was an ordinary person who married and had children. They understood how important a normal life is to a person, and soaked in the weird magical world all day long. Not good for a teenager. Although you passed the CE exam, the 8th grade entrance examination for British students, you didn't go to the class. You are 14 years old, but you never went to the GCSE course stage. Casilios said, I still have a car, which His Holiness agreed to buy, and it still has a British license plate. Don't worry, I have given up drinking since I came to Carmitage. I won't go to those full-time private schools, just give up. Salomon said with wide eyes, don't even think about it. Okay, Mr. Casilios, as Salomon's guardian, you should understand that it is inappropriate to do this. There are 2 chairs in front of the desk in the school, and Casilios and Salomon are sitting quietly on it. They were expressionless, accepting the questioning of the principal, Mrs. Sewell. Our school doesn't have a dress code. Wearing a ring is also a private matter, but putting a ring on someone else's face is another matter. Mrs. Sewell said very forcefully, her hand banging the wooden table. At this time, the holy relic cloth worn by Salomon has turned into an ordinary dark coat. This is the effect of magic, which temporarily deforms the clothes. It's something that can't be hidden. Originally, everything started very well. When Salomon, who hadn't appeared for a long time, appeared in school for the first time, Mrs. Sewell was full of joy, because there are many courses that cannot be replaced by home education, even though Salomon's grades are excellent. Is also like this. But the problem is that human beings are group creatures, and many people will show discomfort in the face of sudden outsiders. Salomon's appearance is somewhat different from that of British Saxons, but his good-looking appearance still makes him popular with most girls. Although Salomon stopped communicating with them after greeting them very politely, this behavior caused the hostility of some adolescent boys in the class. However, Salomon was not interested in this kind of childish jealousy, but they still wanted to teach Salomon a lesson while he was going to the bathroom. So it was logical that Salomon stuffed their heads in the toilet without any magic. These guys usually like to bully their classmates by relying on their height, for people of the same age, to attract the attention of girls. This is a behavior unique to most adolescent men. In European and American countries where precocity is generally precocious, this behavior it has evolved into ubiquitous campus bullying. I've never seen you so excited when they bullied other students, Mrs. Sewell. Salomon said impatiently, I acted very well. They didn't have any broken bones. They didn't even have to go to the infirmary. At most it just hurts for a few days. This is a lesson for them. I fully agree with my ward's self-defense. Casilios stood up, leaned forward with his hands on the table, and the oppression of his expressionless face made Mrs. Sewell I couldn't help pulling away. I think you should teach those students who don't like to obey the rules, not my ward. There are still such things happening under your supervision. I think I can find out. There are many human rights organizations in London where I can complain, and I can always find a few. Mrs. Sewell was dumbfounded and speechless. I think we should go. Casilios rebuttoned the second button of his suit. Tomorrow, I will send Salomon to school on time. It wasn't until they walked out of the school that Casilios couldn't keep his stern expression and burst into laughter. Boy! Casilios stretched out his arm and hung it around Salomon's neck. If you didn't fight, you didn't go to school. But I have to say, you did a good job. You should teach those little brat. Next, you should find a female classmate and have a relationship, then your life will be considered complete. You know that I'm not interested in that thing. Salomon said helplessly, you see, ordinary people's life is incompatible with me. Why do you send me to school? Your Majesty thinks so, so let's do it, don't ask why. Casilios said, I saw the face of that guy named Yuli, and your uppercut is very beautiful. Now, you are already a man, would you like some beer? Tell me how you fight, it must be a good story. Don't tell anyone. If I tell others that I let you drink, the police will find me. Casilios stretched out his fist, it's a deal. It depends on one word. Salomon's fist touched it. End of this chapter. Chapter 84 The Doorless Bar and Parallel World Interference. It is completely impossible for the Supreme Master to make Salomon accept the life of ordinary people. Not because Salomon is unwilling to accept it, but because the life in the magical world is too different from that of ordinary people, and weird things are full of mysteries. A wizard's entire life, a fleeting glimpse into the wizarding world has the potential to drive ordinary people to the brink of madness. The human body is like a petri dish for microorganisms. Whether human beings know it or not, there will be thousands of parasitic bacteria on the body, and the soul will also attract parasites. When the mystic opens his real eyes, he will see those parasites in the extra-dimensional bacteria on the soul. Of course, not all of these little monsters are harmful, and some are even beneficial, but some extra-dimensional bacteria can cause mental burdens. But anyway, when a beautiful young girl with a colorful parasite greets you, no one will be interested, not even a teenager with full hormones. That's why I don't fall in love with female classmates. Salomon put the glass on the table, and he drank half of the cold beer in the glass in one go. I didn't even see them clearly today. What does the face look like? Shit. The other people in the bar shook their heads and uttered a dirty word. Merlin's panties. It was an English wizard. This bar was brought by Casilios, just like the leaky cauldron in Harry Potter. The doorless bar hidden in the depths of New York City is only open to the wizarding world. Magicians all over the world. When I have nothing to do, I will come here to hang out, including the mystic of Comitage. Only here, Salomon will not be caught by the police for drinking beer. See, Salomon, this is not an excuse at all. Sitting opposite Salomon, Casilios said with a smile, ordinary people and mystics can be combined. The guardian of the Hong Kong temple is an example. Those parasites are not a reason at all. As long as you want to, you can destroy them. I think I was kind enough to help those guys eliminate the superdimensional bacteria on their heads during the fight. Salomon said, but I don't think it is necessary for His Holiness to let me adapt to human society. Sex, we're too weird for normal people. That's right. A strong man like a bear squeezed over and pushed Salomon from one end of the sofa to the other. His strong body odor almost made Salomon faint. But this fluffy burly man seemed unconscious, and he put an extremely thick arm on Salomon's shoulder, forcing him to bury him in the bearskin scarf. When I, Kuz, used my saliva to help them clean up the Croatian wild boars, all I got was expulsion. The brawny man said loudly, they are all ignorant guys, and they wouldn't even buy me a drink. This is Count Kuz, who killed and ate a bear when he was 9 years old. It was a magic bear, and since then he has had magic powers and trichinella parasites in his intestines. The Siberian prophet, as the locals call him, is the most masculine magician in the land, even though he doesn't know any divining magic. Count Kuz's breakfast was enchanted bark, and he had to drink poison after each meal. His saliva was also highly poisonous, so the no-door bar agreed to entertain him only after he promised not to spit casually. Kuz, this is the disciple of the Supreme Mage, please don't instill any weird ideas. Also, do you think that after you help others with your saliva, they will still thank you? Casilios said. But you are probably the only one in this bar who dares to raise objections to the Supreme Master's approach. Shit. How did I get here? Earl Kuz woke up like a dream. He let go of his arm and released Salomon from the bearskin scarf. Hey? What did I just say? Never mind, I still have wine to drink. Salomon breathed the fresh air after a long absence. I was almost suffocated to death. Casilios, why don't you help me? I think you can handle it yourself. Casilios said, and I think you should be familiar with Kuz. The Supreme Mage has asked him to organize his magic and put it in the New York temple. Haven't you read that book? You mean the black hair-covered book on shelf 640? Salomon asked. No one in their right mind would choose to go near that book. The alcohol concentration near that book, it's over the limit, and it smells like vodka everywhere. If you've read that book, you can see that Kuz's face is printed on it. Even if you haven't read the content, that face can let you know who you should stay away from. Casilio, be careful, the magic prince is at it again, and he's going around begging people to pay their bills, said Stanley. Your bill hasn't been paid yet, Casilios. Monarch was probably the most unwelcome person in the bar, a white-haired man with a blindfold over one eye, dressed like a strange old man like an old western cowboy. When His Holiness explained the price of using magic to Salomon, he used Monarch as an example. He is the most standard type of magician. Although he is a black magic user, he is an out-and-out good person. When his parents were missionaries in India, they were killed by a local tribe with black magic, and Monarch was adopted by the chief of the tribe. After learning black magic, Monarch returned to England, and the tribe was wiped out by the British colonists. After that, Monarch returned to India, trying to repay the mistakes made by the previous tribe. After all that was over, Monarch began to wander around the world, helping others in his own way. Back in my day, whenever I used a spell to knock out a bunch of magicians and save a poor blonde's life, I'd come home that night and drown one of my rabbits. Mornake babbled about his own experience. This strange old man repeated this story countless times, and the audience in the bar were all calloused. I think I've paid my bill. Casilio's smile faded. I've paid it, Monaco, before I entered Carmitage, though that the price is beyond me. The bills are not easy to repay, and you have to pay a lot. Monarch stared at Salomon with his only remaining eye. The sharp eyes were like a revolver about to be fired, and the sharp eyes were like bullets. The same can penetrate any human body at any time. Boy, did you hear that? Even if you are the disciple of the Supreme Master, you have to pay the bills, no one can be an exception. I've already paid for it, when I first performed the mission. Salomon said, after all, there are some things that can be paid for without rabbits, aren't they? Then you still have a little courage. Monarch walked away from the table. Remember, you have to pay the bill. After Monarch left, Casilios was silent. After a long time, he said, he's quite annoying, isn't he? I think it's not bad. Salomon picked up the glass and drank the remaining half glass of beer. He hiccups. It is also a good thing that someone reminds us of the price we should pay. It is impossible for His Holiness to remind us all the time that some things cannot be replaced by spellcasting materials. You are a well-behaved child, His Holiness must be very pleased, because the most difficult thing in Carmitage is not to learn magic, but to learn the rules. Casilios took a deep breath and poured out the little whiskey in his hand. Drunk, you did a great job, really, really good. The smell of wine. Athena sniffed around Salomon, and she smiled with an unknown meaning, feminine, and devilish. Little guy, have you finally gotten the hang of it and want to drink with women? But you don't need to summon the succubus from the abyss, right? Human women can't satisfy you anymore. I only had one beer, Salomon said. If you're talking about perfume. I just went to my partner's for dinner and nothing else happened. You mean, not long ago, the Supreme Mage wrapped the earth with the mirror dimension. Athena said, I smelled a strong smell of demons at that time. Could it have anything to do with you? Are you there? Is this the reason why you asked for leave for so long? I'm one of the participants, Salomon said, but I'm here to catch up on homework. My sculpture course is not over yet. Tomorrow, I have to go to school. The children in the orphanage haven't seen you for a long time, Salomon. Athena pulled Salomon and walked out. She said, your tricks keep them coming back. Do you know how hard it is for me to put them to sleep when you're not around? Although I shouldn't ask about things that are not on the magic side, I still don't know what you are adopting these gifted children for. When Athena took Salomon downstairs and walked to the back door of the orphanage at that time, the mystic said, I have never seen you cultivate their ability to train themselves. Because they shouldn't appear in this world. Athena turned her head and looked into Salomon's eyes. Their abilities have no source, even I don't know who tampered with their genes. That abnormal gene gave them power, but their parents were ordinary people, and even the Supreme Master couldn't tell who did it. So I collected them who were abandoned, and taught them to suppress their nature, let them not make a big mess. You also know how humans treat aliens, even if they are all human beings, they will be divided into various classes. If they are exposed to the sight of ordinary people, I can imagine what will happen to them, nothing more than prisons and laboratories, neither of which is good. But there are some good things, that is, this ability sometimes disappears, and at some point, their ability will completely disappear and become a real ordinary person. It may be due to the interference of the parallel world. This interference will eventually disappear, and they will become real ordinary people. Even the abnormal gene may be repaired. Salomon opened the door as he said, they shouldn't have appeared in this world, but they still appeared. Perhaps because they are peers in the parallel world, their power is awakened by the same individuals in the parallel world, so various abilities appear. What do you mean? Athena asked. This is my ultimate subject. Salomon said, parallel world interference is also one of my goals. It sounds difficult. Did the Supreme Mage arrange it for you? Athena said, also, remember to call me Minerva in front of these children. Of course not. This is the inspiration from the last incident. Salomon was unwilling to clarify his thoughts too much. He changed the subject. Don't you dislike Romans? Why do you still insist on calling them by this name? It's better than telling people I'm Athena, said Wisdom. It's easier to get Minerva on your driver's license than Athena. Now, you need to do tricks for kids, and they're very happy. Miss you. I can see it. Salomon picked up a little guy who was sticking to his legs, and the little girl hugged Salomon's face and kissed her hard. Good evening, Lorna, I want tonight what to see. Cat and mouse, cried the little girl. Then we need to ask some other people's opinions. Salomon whispered, but as long as you don't tell others, I will show you Tom and Jerry. End of this chapter. Chapter 85 Pass By. Lorna's parents are completely ordinary people without any special genes and superpowers, but the little girl in Salomon's arms has extraordinary abilities due to a genetic mutation. According to the results of Athena's physical examination of these children, the gene mutations in their bodies sometimes disappear, which also makes their superpowers extremely unstable, but after a certain period of time, this mutation will completely disappear. Salomon believes that this is the result of multiple realities caused by the interference of parallel worlds. Before that, he had always had a question, that is, where did the mutants go? Now he probably understands that mutants do not exist in this world at all, and the parallel world peers of the children adopted by Athena are probably mutants. If not, the origin of these genetic mutations and superpowers cannot be explained. Especially Lorna Dane, Salomon knew her name, because in another world her nickname was Polaris. Now that she has no superpowers, this is a good thing, at least she can live her life safely under the care of Athena. Of course, mutants that appear due to relatively stable interference results are not ruled out, provided that such mutants are extremely powerful, such as the Scarlet Witch. After realizing that this was the result of the interference of the parallel world, these children also became the objects of Salomon's observation, which enriched Salomon's life a lot. At least he can mentally stay away from his classmates with colorful parasites on their heads. Now Salomon's day-to-day itinerary is as follows: after breakfast in the morning, put on the common clothes selected by the Supreme Mage, the fashion taste is very good, and be sent to school in London by Casilios. After school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, go to Athena's take an art course in the apartment, and then go to see those children, go to the apartment shared by Bayonetta and Joan of Arc to have dinner, by the way, and start magic learning after dinner, wear it before going to bed, put on his little sheep pajamas, go to the dark dimension to meet Dormammu, and say good night to him, although Dormammu is very manic every time, but Salomon still forgives him. After Jubilus was completely wiped out, those angels rarely visited the earth, and even if they came, they were only small roles. This gave Bayonetta and Joan a lot of free time. Joan found a job as an elementary school teacher in New York, and Bayonetta became a nominal nun of the Lagner order on the verge of bankruptcy. Affairs. When the witches were free, Salomon's only chance to go out was also lost. The Supreme Mage seemed to have counted on this opportunity and ordered Salomon to go to school to get a good grade. As for Karmatage's other businesses, His Holiness does not want Salomon involved for the time being. In such an unremarkable, referring to Salomon began to greet those extra-dimensional bacteria and named them, campus life. For nearly a year, Salomon studied and took exams just like ordinary peers. But the influence of the magical world still seeps into every aspect of his life. For example, his thinking speed is much faster than most people, and his grades are even exaggeratedly excellent, which made him eligible to participate in the EU National Young Scientist Competition. That's right, science competition. Science and magic are not incompatible. The level of magic technology in the inner sea world is extremely developed, and power armor is the pinnacle of personal protection technology. Although these technological products are driven by magic power, this does not prevent Salomon from copying them and using batteries to drive them, because Salomon, who obtained one of the memories, recalled them after a little review. Part of the knowledge of a tech mage. In order to fulfill the Supreme Master's order, Salomon reluctantly made a useless gadget, a chemical analyzer. This instrument is a handheld device with a retractable stick and a suction nozzle at the other end, which can be used to quickly identify synthetic drugs, poisons, and chemicals with high accuracy. In the hands of someone with professional knowledge, this can be a very useful tool, but it is useless for analyzing magic potions, so Salomon said it is useless. But this thing was well received by professionals, and the technology that no one could analyze allowed Salomon to win an award. When taking a group photo, Salomon smiled reluctantly, because he really didn't like the way those capitalists pointed at him, which reminded him of the days when he was a lamb under the financial butcher's knife. And Tony Stark, who became Iron Man, seemed to be very concerned about these future scientists during this time, and he also became one of the judges in this competition. Good idea, Mr. de Monet. In the single lounge, the billionaire approached Salomon. This was the first communication between Salomon and Tony Stark. But to Tony Stark's surprise, Salomon was not very excited after seeing his arrival, but he didn't care too much. He shook the analytical instrument in his hand, and said to himself, I have tried to disassemble this thing, but I have never seen this kind of technology. You did it all by yourself? You wear so many rings, can you still do something like this? It's just an inconspicuous little thing. It's useless. It's far from your achievement. Salomon said, as for the rings. Yes, I wore these rings to complete this little thing, it's not difficult. Salomon is telling the truth. Tony Stark's iron armor has many black technologies that far exceed the current level of human technology. Whether it is the electric propulsion system or the shock absorption design of the iron armor, it is extremely good, and Tony Stark has miniaturized these technologies and placed them in his armor, which is quite an achievement. Salomon's praise seemed to make Tony Stark feel better, but the impatience on his face still lingered. What about the cost? He seemed to suppress his emotions, and asked as if nothing had happened. 50 pounds of gold. Salomon replied without looking up while packing his things. He knew that Tony Stark was irritable because of something, but Salomon didn't show any interest in his palladium poisoning. After all, he would always solve this problem himself, and Salomon didn't need to worry about it at all. Gold? Your unit of measurement is really old. But I think that if it is mass-produced, the cost should be reduced soon. This is something that can be put on the market immediately. Tony Stark blinked. You're going to high school next, do you want to go to any college? Are you interested in graduating from college? No, Mr. Stark. Salomon picked up his backpack and walked out of the lounge. As I said, this is just a gadget, just a product of my whim. But you can do better, can't you? Tony Stark said, your achievements are a little worse than when I was the same age, and you can do better and more in the Stark group. The future of the world needs scientists like you. I don't think you understand what I mean, Mr. Stark. Salomon turned his head and said blankly, science is just my research on a whim. I have no interest in advancing human technology. It's just because of my teacher's request, and you don't lack a few researchers. I can give you a patent. Give it to you. Salomon said, I don't care. It's the first time I've seen someone weirder than me. Tony Stark muttered, watching Salomon walk out of the lounge. Salomon hadn't gone far when he saw a red-haired woman in professional attire walking from the other side of the passage. The mystic seemed to not notice her at all, and he didn't even shift his eyes to her, and went straight to her passed by. This is Natasha Romanoff, she is a spy placed by SHIELD beside Tony Stark. One of the tasks is to monitor Tony Stark's health and conduct a psychological assessment. Salomon didn't want to draw S.H.I.E.L.D's attention, so he avoided her on purpose. Natasha Romanoff turned her head in doubt, looking at Salomon's back. Before that, she hastily read the profile of this person, Salomon de Monet, born on Christmas Day, with unknown parents, and the guardian is a widower, referring to Casilios, but there is evidence that the lives of a widower and Salomon de Monet do not intersect. Due to the suspicious background information, she rushed over immediately after learning that Stark had met with this person alone, but Salomon's performance deepened her doubts. After all, Salomon had never received anti-reconnaissance training, which made his movements and expressions appear to be too forceful and extremely unnatural. An adolescent boy didn't even move his eyes after seeing a beautiful woman. This can only show that such a young man is either shy, or he knows her and doesn't want to attract her attention. And Natasha never saw Salomon blushing, so there is only the second possibility. But she still kept her doubts in her heart for the time being. The most important thing now is to confirm the situation of Tony Stark. When she is free, she can access the information network of SHIELD and personally investigate Salomon de Monet. Are you serious? Salomon asked suspiciously, study at Eton College? Do you still plan to let me go to Oxford in the future? Do you want me to be a civil servant in Whitehall in the future? Actually, His Holiness doesn't mind your choice of future. Modu said, as long as you don't reveal the secrets of magic. You can do whatever you want. I think going to school will help you improve your mind, anyway, as long as you don't need to work after graduation. Then I really thank you, Mordo. Salomon said, full-time school, what the hell? I can't even learn magic there. How can I still read magic books in ordinary people's dormitories? You know, my magic level has improved by leaps and bounds recently, and I have endured the days when I can only use some small tricks for several years. You can't interrupt my progress like this. But His Holiness wants you to go to a good school, said Casilios sitting on the side. I don't know why, His Holiness seems to be very happy that you can beat those people in the competition. Now it seems that His Holiness is still I want you to beat more opponents. Salomon probably knew what His Holiness was thinking. The Supreme Master is Celtic, while the main ethnic group in Britain is the invaders of the year, the Anglo-Saxons, in addition to some Vikings. The meaning of His Holiness is roughly to let the Saxons taste the taste of failure again, but this is all done by him, an Israeli or a Hebrew. This can be regarded as the little temper of the Supreme Mage. People have lived such a long time, and they have already reached the age of doing whatever they want, but the only waywardness of the Supreme Master should be done by Salomon, which makes people dumbfounded. After thinking about these things, Salomon sighed. I will go and explain to His Holiness, he said. I think His Holiness will understand my thoughts. I hope so too. Although Casilios agreed with Salomon to go to school, he also opposed Salomon's complete withdrawal from the magical world, which was impossible. After Salomon's spell-casting level began to soar, the Supreme Mage asked Salomon to pick up a few spells and transcribe them into the library book. Now many of Kamataj's apprentices have begun to learn the spell he transcribed: sleep spells, true strike, misty step, magic missile, feather fall, jumping. These spells have become compulsory courses for apprentices, and Salomon, who shares these magics, is influenced by almost all of Kamataj. People are welcome. They have already discussed in private whether Salomon will be the candidate for the next Supreme Master. Fortunately, sending Salomon to a public school was a complete misunderstanding. The Supreme Master only said those words in a joking tone, but the stubborn Moda took it seriously. When Salomon went to the Venerable, the misunderstanding was quickly resolved. Have you been in contact with Tony Stark today? His Holiness asked. Yes, sir. Salomon replied. How about it? How about what? He's a man. His Holiness handed Salomon a bottle of orange soda as usual, and it seemed that the refrigerator in Salomon's bedroom had fallen again. Synonymous with frivolity, Salomon said. Don't worry, he needs to grow. The Supreme Mage said, you also need to grow. Have you decided on your future magic path? End of this chapter. Chapter 86 Suspicion. I don't really want to rely on the 72 demon gods to fight, although they can help a lot. Salomon pointed to Phoenix, who was sleeping on the shelf. If Salomon hadn't come to look for it, it won't speak, because apart from Salomon and the Supreme Mage, there is a great possibility that everyone else will get lost in its singing. Since Phoenix appeared in the Supreme Master's meditation room, the mystic who took care of the Supreme Master's daily life no longer had to use magic to light candles. The flame was burning on Phoenix's feathers. And then, asked the Venerable. In addition to the magic in the Book of Wise Sandy, I think some magic that manipulates energy and fights is also a compulsory course for me. Salomon refers to the evocation magic, including fire, frost, lightning, soil, acid erosion and magic force fields. The effects of these magics are extremely simple and direct, and they are the best choice for cleaning up miscellaneous fish. The evocation magic also has great similarities with Wysandy's magic. The Supreme Sorcerer is a master at manipulating energy. Salomon has even seen the Venerable use the spell Magic Missile in the mirror dimension. It became Isaac Missile Storm. The so-called 5 Fireball God religion was even more easily displayed in the hands of the Supreme Master. But these magics are only interesting to the Venerable, because these are useful to some apprentices, but they cannot deal with the enemies of the Supreme Mage. Protective magic is also a compulsory course for me. Salomon said, divination spells also need to be practiced a little bit, and the same is true for mind spells. I just need to learn the basics of illusion. As for necromancy, to tell you the truth, I am actually somewhat interested. Aren't you angry? Why should I be angry, said His Holiness. Is it more serious to study black magic than to gain the power of Dormammu? It's no big deal, you are still too young and still need to learn. Black magic is also magic one, I do not forbid you to learn. Salomon almost forgot that the Supreme Mage is the one who has obtained the most power from Dormammu, necromancy is not enough to make the venerable make a fuss, as long as the learning of necromancy is not discovered by other people in Comitage all right. After reporting on his magic learning plan for the next stage, Salomon obediently left the Zen room, planning to go to Bayonetta to kill time. It's spring break now, and his magic has made some progress. The first 3-ring spell he learned was the famous fireball spell. The Supreme Mage, quite satisfied, gave Salomon a little vacation. The heavy curtains blocked all the strong sunlight that broke in from the windows. Although it was spring, the 2 women were still wearing clear and thin pajamas. Their legs are curled up on the cushions, and they each hold a book in their hands. This is not some advanced magical book, but an ordinary romance novel on the market. Bayonetta twitched her white toes painted with black nail polish restlessly, and kept gently touching Salomon, who was sitting in the middle of the sofa. Compared with Bayonetta's gentleness, Joan of Arc is much rougher. The white-haired witch always thought that Salomon was an outsider in the world of her and Bunita. She put her foot heavily on his knee the first time Salomon arrived, neither moving nor moving. Not talking. Meow, the Cheshire cat greeted its owner cautiously. Shut up, you fat cat. Joan snapped under the sofa angrily, as if she had just seen Salomon. She greeted extremely bluntly, there is food in the refrigerator, go get it. Salomon was not surprised by Joan's attitude. He snapped his fingers, and the refrigerator door opened by itself, as if an invisible person was taking drinks and snacks out of it. And could unscrew the bottle cap and pour Coke into it. Cup, and finally delivered these to the 3 people lying on the sofa. This is also a small improvement in Salomon's magic. Now when he casts some magic, he doesn't need to use the cheap spell-casting materials that can be seen everywhere, such as this invisible servant spell, a thread and a piece of wood. This casting material can be completely ignored. Joan snorted softly, took the cup, and stopped looking at Salomon. Although she was still a little dissatisfied, she still slowly accepted Salomon's existence. After all, most of the dinners were made by Salomon himself, and only lunch they had to deal with casually. As long as Bayonetta doesn't keep Salomon overnight, even if she stays overnight, she can't be invited to the bed, because there is only one big bed in this apartment. She sleeps with Bayonetta. Salomon also brought a lot of books and manuscripts, which he and Bunita searched from the library of the Church of the Holy Cross. He would definitely not be able to read them all by himself. The same goes for the scholar's touch magic. Simply, Bunita is very happy to share this job, because the Ragnar order is now almost completely wiped out at the top, and the funeral affairs are also going on intermittently. The old manuscripts still piqued her interest. Next, Salomon will enter high school, which is a bit late for his grades and age, but with his GCSE A* results and the award of the EU National Young Scientist competition, there is still a chance. Many private schools will come to invite him, and Salomon has already received several invitations to interview during the holidays. It's just that these schools have attendance requirements, so Salomon needs to choose carefully. For example, Eton College, parents are not allowed to visit 3 weeks before enrollment, and they are not allowed to leave the school. This will allow Salomon to study magic. The time is greatly shortened, and the tuition fee of £1 per year, although this is nothing to Salomon now, if Salomon chooses himself, he will definitely not choose to enter this kind of school. Interestingly, Eton College was founded by Henry VI in 1440. The main purpose is to provide free education for poor students, so that poor children can also enter the school as a preparatory school for King's College, Cambridge University. Unexpectedly, today's Eton College has gradually become the most famous aristocratic school in the UK, which is a bit ironic. But in any case, the best place for a British high school student to go is the 9 great public schools. Although what His Holiness said about giving a Saxon a good look is a joke, it is clear that the Supreme Master still wants to let Saxon. The idea of lawmen going to rule a new generation of Saxons. Due to the deep impression that Salomon de Monet left on Natasha Romanoff, she started the investigation immediately after handling the affairs of the Stark Group. When she opened the SHIELD information network to access Salomon's file, she discovered that there was a mark on Salomon's file. This sign means dangerous, and it belongs to the 6th level secret, which is lower than Natasha's confidentiality level. If not, she would not be able to see this file. And the annotator of this note is Agent Carlson. Natasha knows him. He is the director's right-hand man. It is said that when Nick Fury was not the director of SHIELD partner, Natasha's secret agent instincts made her feel that this matter was a bit tricky. Although Nick Fury is famous for not being selfish, a long-term special agent and the director's partner when he was young actually only has level authority. There must be a lot of articles. But that's not the point right now. It just so happens that Agent Coulson is also in charge of Tony Stark's affairs, and is now rummaging through the documents left by Howard Stark. Natasha thinks she can ask about things that aren't on file. I wanted to confirm whether you have a sufficient level of confidentiality, but it is obviously superfluous. Coulson's voice came from the other end of the phone, but I still want to know why you are so moved by this matter interest. Tony Stark met him, alone, in the lounge of the European Union National Young Scientist Competition. Natasha was bored flipping through the documents of the Stark Group. Since she became the president of the Stark Group after my assistant, these troublesome documents continued to flow. Why did she even have to formulate the style of the batch? Couldn't the security services fix this? And then? Coulson asked. After Stark met him, he kept saying that he saw someone weirder than him. Natasha said with a smile, I think, you also know how weird Stark's temper is. It's hard for me to imagine anyone more eccentric than him. Instinctively, Natasha didn't reveal too much information, and Coulson knew it well, but it was enough. In fact, Salomon de Monet is suspected to have been absorbed into an organization of supernatural beings. Coulson didn't laugh, and his tone gradually became serious. This organization has been active in Salem town. If you go to the events files in Salem, and you can find a few things, the robbery of the gemstone ring of Senator White in Salem, and a fire in the outskirts of the local area. What's the connection? Natasha asked. I think Salomon de Monet is very likely to be a flame power user, and he was the one who robbed Congressman White. Agent Coulson said, he also has a companion. Maybe that robbery was just criminal rehearsal, they will have bigger actions. Rings. Natasha thought of the 3 rings on Salomon's right hand, and those 3 expensive rings were extremely eye-catching no matter where they were. She said, what does Senator White's ring look like? There's a pink gemstone that stands out, Coulson said. Yes. Natasha thought back, and she did see a ring with pink gemstones on Salomon's finger. She continued to ask, have you continued to investigate? I arranged it in my dream, sir, Coulson said. I remember the last clue was in a private museum, and I had to stop the investigation because of Stark's disappearance. Maybe it was because I paid too much attention to it. I also dreamed that I led an action team to assault that museum. I can even clearly remember the furnishings in the museum. It's amazing. Yes, it's really miraculous. Natasha narrowed her eyes as she looked at Coulson's action record. Agent Coulson didn't raid the museum in a dream at all. He did, but why would he think he was dreaming? Natasha Romanoff took a deep breath. It was a big deal, and it wasn't a small fish under the hook. End of this chapter. Chapter 87 Action begins. A few days later, Salomon was still lying on the sofa in the apartment, and the Cheshire Cat was still meowing incessantly, hoping to get a feast of fish and meat. But no one paid attention to it. I found out that the Supreme Mage was not joking. I'm finished. Salomon clutched a document tightly in his hand. I don't know where this scholarship came from, but this way I also have a separate dormitory and a unique, that is to say, I go back to Carmitage or here every night, as long as I don't get noticed by the housekeeper. Isn't this a good thing? Joan asked. You don't have to stay away from the magic world anymore. I think I still prefer high school, where school ends at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Salomon muttered, it's more civilian. I really can't imagine myself wearing a black suit to dinner. That would be stupid. A suit is the armor of a mature man. You need to learn to arm yourself. Bayonetta moved her face closer, her thick, cloud-like hair hanging down her shoulders, and her moist and hot breath slapped the mystic's face without any scruples. The witch scrutinized Salomon unscrupulously. We have known each other for more than a year, boya, you have changed a lot. That's because I'm in my teenage years, Salomon said. I think I'm going to be taller than you one day. Then I'll just wait, cute little guy. Bayonetta stroked Salomon's chin with her hand. The stubble that just emerged was slender and soft. You should learn how to foam your cheeks, how to use it razor. I don't like your beard. Tisk. Seeing the intimacy between Bayonetta and Salomon, Joan's expression became ugly again. Although she will accept Salomon, but not now, she also knows that Bayonetta will not be able to get rid of Salomon in this life, because Salomon is Bayonetta and her prison. I also wanted to buy an electric razor yesterday, and you know I don't care much about appearance. Salomon said, I think the effect of an electric razor is the same as that of a razor, as long as you bear the buzzing vibration sound. The results that technological products can achieve are no worse than manual ones. But I've heard that Eden has a very strict dress code, Bayonetta said. You who are halfway through are likely to be treated more strictly because you are seen by many people as an anomaly. It's not that serious, Bayonetta, Salomon said. Although what you say is true, do you think I care what other people think? If they don't want to cause trouble, they will know who is not it should be messed with. Eden really didn't want to be in trouble, but they were. After Shield learned that Salomon had accepted the interview at Eden College, they immediately came to the school to search for information. Shield tried to find information about Salomon because Salomon had finished the interview later. He disappeared mysteriously again, and none of the nearby cameras saw him, so Shield planned to find Salomon's address from the information of Eden College. This time the operation was led by Natasha Romanoff, who also took a leave of absence with Pepper Potts. And Phil Coulson, who was supposed to be in charge of this matter, is under scrutiny because he can't explain why he has forgotten the operation he participated in. But if the target is a supernatural person, then everything can be explained. Agent Coulson is a loyal person. Natasha Romanoff believes that he will be able to prove his innocence. The review is just in case. Everyone knows that in the United Kingdom, the President of the United States has the final say, not the British cabinet. The Shield is driving straight in and running around in the academy, and the British government has nothing to do, let alone the principal. Even if he called some high-ranking alumni, he couldn't stop S.H.I.E.L.D's actions. This made the principal very nervous, because what he was most worried about was another scandal at Eden College. Now it seems that the scene of this incident is too big, and this incident must not be small. This matter is indeed not small. The danger of a supernatural person who can brainwash an agent is too high. Natasha doubts whether Salomon's ability is the high-temperature ability that Coulson mentioned. Whether certain concepts in Coulson's mind had been quietly switched, she was not even sure whether Salomon and his accomplices knew the secrets of Shield through Coulson. Therefore, after Natasha Romanoff reported the matter, the only answer she got was capture Salomon alive and find out what they know, because Nick Fury was very concerned about Salomon and the alien behind him. The emergence of capable person organization is also extremely nervous now in Nick Fury's mind. This organization has aimed its guns at Shield, but he doesn't know anything. However, Natasha only got one address for this operation. When she led the team to London, she couldn't find the building on the address, so she decided it was a fake address. In fact, it wasn't, the address was real. Since the last assault led by Coulson, the London Temple has activated some kind of magic similar to the Muggle repelling curse. Things are invisible. From the perspective of the temple deacons, Natasha and the people she led were just circling around the door. The clues were cut off, but Shield wouldn't give up because Salomon would definitely go to school, and Shield would find him. Tell Salomon, he's causing trouble again. Several senior temple deacons said with a smile, he's coming to clean us up again. Don't be stupid, have you learned the magic of invisible servant? That magic is in Salomon's magic book. The temple guardian said, he is going to school, and the only ones who can come are a few with a rag. His invisible servant, you can't see him at all now. It is said that even Casilios and Moto can't find him now, His Holiness gave him a vacation. Hey, tell me, could Salomon be? It's hard to say, don't forget the fate of the previous candidates. The expression of the guardian of the temple was very nervous, for the sake of the venerable, for the venerable. If Salomon is qualified, the venerable will naturally choose him. The idea of the supreme mage is not something we can say. That. Shut up, said the guardian of the temple, we don't know anything, everything is according to His Holiness arrangement. When the last ray of spring breeze dissipated on the Thames River, the start of school came leisurely. Salomon hugged Phoenix vigorously, and greeted Motu and Casilios in black suits. Salomon took off the shroud, and put on a black college uniform full of British style. The tuxedo cost a full £700. If calculated according to the price of Faerun, this suit would cost at least 150 GP, which is quite for £3 of gold, and without any magical effects. Tisk, what a waste. Are you happy? Salomon asked Motu and Casilios, both of them had smiles on their faces. Of course, Salomon. Casilios raised his eyebrows, it's hard for you to imagine how happy I am. I'm also very happy that you have fulfilled His Holiness' order. Motu said, there are very few obedient children like you. I think the self-disciplined life at Eden College is not difficult for you at all. Then you're too happy, Salomon said. I'm wearing a ring. That means I can come back here every night. The Supreme Mage does not forbid you to do this. Modu said with a smile, Kamatage will always be your home. It is here, not that witch. I hope you can remember this clearly, because you are here spent a lot of time there. Okay, okay. Salomon hurriedly waved his hand, interrupting Mordo's thoughts. How do we get to school? I can't wait to rule the descendants of those British politicians and Middle Eastern rich men, oh, and a bunch of others, a nerd. I heard that Eden High School has a strict hierarchy, and the old students often bully the new students. I can't wait to let them taste my fist. You go there to learn to live in peace with ordinary people, Salomon. Modu said, don't take the initiative to attack them. Again. Salomon said impatiently, I think the start time of Eden College cannot tolerate your nagging, senior brother Modu, why don't you decide how to send me to school? Of course it's through the portal. Modu said, don't you still expect Casilios to drive you there in that broken car? I don't mind, and this will also allow me to find a few guys who don't have eyes. Salomon said, it's hard for you to imagine how impatient I am. If it wasn't for the single dormitory, I wouldn't have not going there. Since you insist, I will send you to school. Casilios said with a smile. Casilios. His Holiness didn't send Salomon therefore. Never mind him, I don't care what kind of official or rich man, those young masters can't be arrogant in front of Salomon. Casilios said, if you haven't fought, how can you be considered an adolescent? I'm right. Hey, Salomon. That's right, I can't wait to stuff their heads into the toilet. Salomon pulled Casilios and walked towards the portal. Don't worry, Mordo, they will only think it was a dream, I will get along well with the extra-dimensional bacteria on their heads. In fact, the broken car that Modu talked about is actually not very broken. This car has only been bought for a year, and its only function is to send Salomon to school. The reason why Modu dislikes this car is because he thinks its cars are really cheap. But in any case, now this car has a new mission, its life is full of vitality again, and the engine that has been silent for several months is started again, carrying Salomon and Casilios towards Eden College. Go. Find the target, report, found the target. A black car on the side of the road started silently and quickly followed the car driven by Casilios. Received, the action begins. End of this chapter. Chapter 88 on the use of fear in melee combat. After the black car followed silently, the two black jeeps parked on the side of the road followed quickly, but Casilios and Salomon didn't care. Because Eden College is located in Berkshire, Casilios needs to drive west from London. The M4 highway has always been one of the main roads to the outside of London. There are a lot of vehicles coming and going on this road. 3 tracking cars is unremarkable at all. When Casilios was driving past Heathrow Airport, several following cars that had been unhurriedly sped up suddenly and drove to the side of the vehicle where Salomon was sitting. At this time, Salomon had just only then did he tie his emperor's cloak on his body. This is the proof that he has applied for a scholarship. As long as he has this cloak, he will be a master in Eden. Don't have eyes to annoy him. Well, it is also possible that people are superior to others, /omega. After all, the lower grade students who were instigated still had to do some things that only girls could do, and the ethos of British boys' schools was somewhat gay. But Salomon can at least guarantee his own safety, which is the most important thing. On Salomon's wrist is a gift from Bunita, just like a suit. Bunita believes that a mature man needs at least one watch. Salomon doesn't know that this one has a black semi-matte crocodile leather strap. The watch is worth a lot, but it is certainly not cheap. The other gift was from Joan of Arc. Although she didn't know where she got Salomon's course schedule, she immediately prepared a gorgeously decorated rapier for Salomon when she saw the fencing class. That is the Western sword, which is longer than today's small swords. Salomon doesn't know if this French woman has a wrong brain. The current fencing class is not the kind that would lose her life at any time. 500 years ago the class is over, all the students are wearing protective gear, and the tip of the training rapier is also a ball. But Joan of Arc let Salomon wear it, because the rapier has always been a status symbol and weapon of the nobility. Bayonetta also persuaded Salomon to accept the gift. After all, this was the first step in the reconciliation between Joan of Arc and Salomon. You have a tuxedo and a sword, and now you are short of a few girls. Casilios took a deep breath on a cigarette. It's a pity that you went to a boys' school, otherwise the aristocratic look is sure to attract many little girls. You know I'm not interested, Casilios. Salomon tidied his sword bag in boredom. Whether it's a girl or a boy, I'm not interested. Then tell me about those 2 witches. Casilios said, why? Moda told me that you hang out with them all day long, they are two charming girls. Salomon rolled his eyes and said, except that I am more than 500 years older than me, there is nothing special. At this time, the car was driving towards the Queen's Reservoir. After passing through the reservoir, Old Windsor was ahead. Eton College is located at the northernmost end of Windsor Castle, which is also Salomon's destination. Compared with when we first left London, there were far fewer vehicles here. Two black jeeps stepped on the accelerator and drove to the left and right sides of Casilios and Salomon. The black car in front was also blocked in front. 3 cars surrounded them. Even a fool can see that something is wrong at this time. Casilios narrowed his eyes, he let go of the steering wheel, took out the ring from his suit pocket and put it on his hand. Who do you think it is? He asked. I always thought they were here to trouble you, Salomon. I think so too. Salomon's action was exactly the same as that of Casilios, and he also put the ring on the index finger and middle finger of his left hand. At the same time, he also quickly recalled what he had done recently that might arouse suspicion, but after thinking about it, Salomon couldn't think of any clues that he had missed that would allow others to track him down, except for one thing. I guess I figured it out, he said. I had a face-to-face meeting with the SHIELD agent. Are you serious? Casilios asked, do you think SHIELD will suspect you just by meeting him once? It's hard to say. Salomon reached out to open the skylight. He unzipped the sword bag and pulled out the rapier inside. That's a 9th level agent. How do you know? Wait, you have to settle this matter yourself. Casilios quickly pressed Salomon's shoulder, but they must have guns. Oh, you are a great help. You are responsible for the unfolding of the mirror dimension. Salomon uttered a spell, and a protective force field wrapped him up. After that, he stepped on the seat, holding the rapier. He jumped out of the skylight with a light leap. Salomon's back was straight, and he stood firmly on the roof of the car. His cloak fluttered like black waves in the galloping wind, and the back of his black tuxedo fluttered like a banner. He held the hilt of his sword with his slender fingers, like a young man who lived several centuries ago and was confident about the upcoming duel. There seemed to be stands around him, and many girls in court costumes stood on it. The best place is not the roof of the car, but the garden full of fallen leaves. The mystic held out his fingers and slightly loosened the tie that had been making him uncomfortable. He was looking forward to the handkerchiefs of the girls, the sign of victory. The target jumped out of the sunroof and is standing on the roof. The person in the black jeep was reporting through the walkie-talkie. The action team member looked at Salomon and smiled at them. He opened his mouth and said something. He hurriedly reported, "We have been found." Action! The windows of the black jeep suddenly rolled down, revealing several black muzzles, and the black car in front also slowed down suddenly, trying to force Casilios to a stop. Immediately afterwards, lines like shattered glass appeared in front of the road, but these people turned a blind eye to them. Salomon smiled, he was impatient for a long time. Now that Casilios has prepared the mirror dimension, he can flex his muscles. The next moment, the 4 vehicles suddenly disappeared from the road without leaving any trace. Put down your weapons, shouted the members of the action team wearing black masks. At this time, they hadn't realized that they had entered an isolated space, and they still pointed their assault rifles at Salomon. Drop your weapons, he yelled. CIA. Stop for inspection. The black car in front stopped suddenly, and Casilios stepped on the accelerator and slammed into it hard, making a loud bang, and the front of the car sank as expected. Before the impact, Salomon lifted his foot and stepped into the jeep on the right. The shaking caused by the vehicle did not make him lose his balance. This is also the effect of magic. Now Salomon doesn't need to eat spiders at all when he casts Spider Walk. An action member fired, aiming at Salomon's leg. The bullet pierced through the air with a whistling and explosive sound, and flew precisely towards Salomon's knee. However, the flight path of this bullet was stopped by an invisible force field, but this force reflected the bullet back and hit the armor plate on the chest of this operator. The enemy has guns. He slumped on the seat. The pain in his ribs reminding him of the opponent's way of fighting back. He reminded his teammates loudly, "I didn't see how he shot." Radio contact lost, the driver yelled, "We have lost all contact. The enemy has jamming devices. We are betrayed. F***CK. F***CK. The action team member peeped out again, but he didn't see Salomon's figure. Immediately afterwards, he saw an astonishing scene. The originally straight road suddenly folded vertically, like folding a long and thin piece of paper. The black jeep on the right and the other 3 vehicles are no longer driving on the same plane. The distance is getting farther and farther. But the driver is not in the mood to think about it because he has to step up the gas to keep the car from rolling over. Target disappeared. Repeat. Target disappeared. What the hell is going on? The leader yelled angrily. This time the operation was extremely weird from the very beginning. First it was the opponent who moved too fast to see clearly, then it was radio interference, and now it was a terrain problem. This terrain does not exist on the M4 road at all. The answer is wrong. Salomon's voice came from the roof of the car. You didn't tell me the information I want to know. He's on the roof. Why didn't he get thrown off? A member of the action team cursed and took out a pistol, leaned out half of his body and tried to shoot at the roof of the car because this jeep is bulletproof, including the roof. But before he could see Salomon, a narrow and long sword appeared in front of his eyes. The sharp point of the sword was inserted into his eye socket precisely and quickly, and pierced through the back of his head. Come out! When Salomon pulled out the rapier, black and red blood gushed out like a fountain, and fell at Salomon's feet like the handkerchiefs thrown by the girls after the victory of the duel. With a muffled sound, the body fell out of the car lifelessly and was run over by the speeding jeep. Shoot! Before the team leader ordered the others to attack Salomon together, the stabbing sword stained with emerald green flames pierced through the roof of the car following the sound, cutting off the leader's cervical spine precisely like a scalpel. The emerald green flame seemed to have the living things were normal, jumping from the sword to another team member. Shit! The operator frantically slapped the flames on his body. Nylon body armor is not fireproof. But Salomon's actions didn't stop. He continued to stab down with his rapier. It wasn't that no one tried to lean out of the car window to shoot him, but the moment the action team members leaned out, they were bound by a bolt of lightning and pulled on the roof of the car. Salomon cut his throat with a rapier. Those who stayed in the car could only see the body rolling down from the back of the car. Every scream and the sound of corpses falling hit their hearts like a heavy hammer. They were the elite of the elite and had dealt with many supernatural beings, but none of them was as weird as today's target. They are fearless, but today, fear still covers them, because they have no strength to fight back, just like chickens waiting to be slaughtered, tremblingly waiting for their fate. Salomon's figure gradually overlapped with the things they feared the most in their lives. Those childhood nightmares crawled out from under the bed, from the closet, and from the storybook again, and they snickered. With a sound. Cold paws stretched out from the stagnant black past memories again and patted their shoulders and faces. This is a long-lost reunion after many years. This fear has grown up with them, and now it has come to them again. Today's operatives yell in panic whenever they see a scrap of Salomon's clothes. Now it is not about how to complete the task, but about how to survive. When they first received the mission, they thought the target was an ordinary superhuman with high temperature ability. Now it seems that the information was all wrong. Even if they ran away, no one would blame them, because actions with inaccurate information are die. Suddenly, the car regained its balance and the driver slowly eased off the accelerator. No one spoke. Except for the leader who was still dying and a few members of the action team who were holding their pistols tightly, all the hot-headed people in this car were dead. The car stopped slowly, and no one dared to pant loudly, for fear that any movement would attract an attack. Salomon was a little puzzled. Isn't this a good opportunity to fight back? Why are they inactive? Or, the fear technique he used was a little too exciting for ordinary people? End of this chapter. Chapter 89 Going to School, Last Fart. Ah! An action member yelled, and frantically pulled the trigger and shot at Salomon who was standing by the car window, but these bullets posed little threat to Salomon, and the rapier accurately cut at the action. On the finger of the team member, the pistol fell with the finger. Salomon's expectation was not bad, but the fear technique was too exciting for ordinary people. In the eyes of the action team members, Salomon's figure still overlapped with those fears. Isn't it over with you? Casilios drove the battered sedan crookedly over, and he got out of the car. His meticulously combed grey and white hair was a little messy, stuck in his breast pocket. The handkerchief in the bag was also gone, and Salomon turned his head and found that there were still bloodstains between his fingers. Obviously, Casilios was faster than Salomon in cleaning up those action team members. He asked, "Why are my enemies not as quiet as you are here?" "Fear, I haven't copied it in the magic book yet." Salomon stabbed out the long sword again, and the sword edge cut the throats of the remaining members of the action team, leaving only the leader who was left dying. Salomon reached in, opened the car window, dragged the leader whose nerves he had severed out of the car, and threw it on the ground. He said, "Maybe you should undo the mirror dimensions so the radios can pick up their messages." "What about going to school?" Casilios asked while stretching out his hand to cast a spell. I can't think of whether I can still go to school under such circumstances. I'm afraid even the venerable can't help it. Salomon bent down, picked up the walkie-talkie on the leader's shoulder, pressed a few buttons at will, and glanced again. Eyes around the environment, put your ears next to the walkie-talkie. However, first we need to determine who the mastermind of the attack was. Received, please reply, received, please reply. The radio system on the driver's seat rang, and Salomon threw away the walkie-talkie in embarrassment. It's the same as the one on the shoulder. Using the walkie-talkie on the shoulder. He dragged the driver's body from the seat, sat on it himself, and after a few seconds looking at the buttons, Salomon connected the radio. Hello, he said calmly. The people on the other side of the radio stopped talking, and Salomon continued to ask, are you the S.H.I.E.L.D? Still no reply. Tell me, who is directing this operation? Salomon said. Is it Agent Natasha Romanoff? Yes. After a long while, a female voice came from the other end of the radio. Tell me, how are those operatives doing? I think you can use them as bargaining chips. I thought all agents were people with suicide drugs sewn into their collars. Salomon blinked at Casilios, signaling him not to worry too much. He continued, A&D. I'm afraid I won't be able to get them back to you. The radio station was silent again, and Salomon's subtext had already been known by the other party, that is, all the team members who participated in the operation had been wiped out this time, and Salomon could feel the solemn atmosphere on the other side even across the radio station. However, I still left one alive, who should be regarded as the leader of the team. Salomon said. Now, the agents directing the operation felt that something was going wrong. If all the members of the action team died, they would mourn for them and even avenge them, but if they were alive, and the secrets might be revealed, I can hope that the prisoner can commit suicide. Oh, that's right. Are you Agent Natasha Romanoff? Salomon asked. The voice here is a bit distorted. There is really no way to determine your identity. You are Salomon de Monette, we have met. Natasha's voice was a little annoyed. She didn't know whether Salomon knew her name from the captives or knew her himself. I don't know, where did you hear my name? Listen, you and your organization have been wanted by SHIELD. Wanted by SHIELD? My organization. Before Natasha finished speaking, Salomon said with a puzzled face, I don't know what you're talking about. Salem, Collins Town, isn't it an action organized by you? Natasha said, you have violated the law. I guess I understand what you mean, said Salomon. I'll talk to you guys. Looking for us? Yes, it's now. After Salomon finished speaking, he hung up the radio and got off the driver's seat. How is it? Casilios asked. Comitage is wanted by SHIELD. They caught my foot in my actions, although I don't know what I missed. Salomon spread his hands. I plan to talk to SHIELD. It is more useful to talk to their boss directly. I'm asking, what should we do now? Casilios rolled his eyes. You're going to be late for the opening ceremony. If I don't talk to them, I'm afraid more Secret Service agents will break in during the opening ceremony. Salomon said, leave this person here, he can still receive an insurance, if SHIELD is willing to buy it for them. It's strange that Hydra can buy insurance for the team members, Salomon secretly complained. But no matter what, it is imperative to have a good talk with Nick Fury. As for going to school, don't even think about it. After Casilios cast a spell to open the portal, he helped push the car that was already broken into shape. As for going to talk to Nick Fury about it, Salomon refused to be accompanied by Casilios, and he insisted on going alone. Casilios had to say that he would inform the Supreme Master about it. I don't think SHIELD can pose any threat to me. A golden red fire burst out above Salomon's head. And a big bird wrapped in flames appeared out of nowhere and landed on Salomon's shoulder. As his summoning demon, the resident Phoenix, Salomon will never forget it. The mystic cast a spell to open the portal, and got in with Phoenix. I'll tell the Supreme Mage. Casilios was still yelling at Salomon on the other side of the portal. I know. Let's go, I'll go back later. Salomon waved his hand and closed the portal. Do you think you are the only special person in the world? I especially like this sentence, a certain sense of superiority is so easily reflected. Salomon sat at the desk of the director of SHIELD. Before, speaking to the person behind the desk, beside the mystic, Phoenix was spreading his wings and hovering in the spacious office. But if someone reacts, they will find that there seems to be something wrong with this big flaming bird. It is belly up, like a turkey on a plate. But as long as it is turned upside down, everything will go smoothly, including that Nick Fury who is clinging to the edge of the desk. Both the blood in his veins and his intuition told Nick Fury that the ceiling under his feet was the ground, but even as the experienced director of SHIELD, what happened was a bit unacceptable. After he received the information that the operation failed, Nick Fury returned to the office, intending to use the computer to access Salomon Damonet's information. Carlson lost his memory and failed to act. All the signs showed that the organization Salomon Damonet belonged to was not that simple. But when he turned on the computer and raised his head from behind the desk again, Salomon Damonet, the target of this operation, suddenly appeared in front of him. Before he could react, everything was turned upside down, and what he saw through the window turned around, as if the building had been folded. Before he even took out his pistol, a soul-piercing cry made his speed extremely slow. When the folding was completed, he could only hug the desk tightly, trying not to let himself fall. And that bastard, Salomon Damonet, was sitting quietly on the chair with his head down as if nothing had happened. And then there's the opening scene. Is this hallucination, or real? Nick Fury pinched himself quietly, but the scene in front of him remained unchanged. As the keeper of secrets, let me ask you, do you think you know all the secrets, Nick Fury? Salomon asked, but he didn't expect Nick Fury to answer. Why not let everything go back to normal, so we can have a good talk? Nick Fury said. Motherfucker, when has the director of SHIELD been threatened by someone in the SHIELD tripartite wing? However, this situation made him confirm the doubts in his heart. This organization is indeed not simple. This kind of talk clears your mind, Salomon said. At this time, the door of the office opened, and a tall woman with short black hair walked in, holding a document in her hand. At this time, Maria Hill, the adjutant assigned to Nick Fury by the World Security Council, has now been taken under Nick Fury's command. She looked around suspiciously. She had clearly seen the chief enter the office, but now he was nowhere to be found, and the computer on the desk was turned on. But after being an agent for so long, she also knew what to ask and what not to ask. She just put down the documents and left the room without doing anything unnecessary. She even closed the door before leaving. She can't see yours, Salomon said, and she can't see me. Now we are in an illusory dimension. From the moment you enter this office, you have stepped into the mirror dimension. Is this also your ability? Nick Fury asked. It seems that our intelligence is outrageously wrong. The superhuman organization behind you seems to be quite powerful. You are still trying to get information from me at this time. You can only say that you are a natural agent. Salomon said, and, when did I say this is a supernatural power? This is magic. Magic. Nick Fury would not believe this kind of nonsense. He even thought that the guy in front of him was an idiot who regarded supernatural powers as magic. Such an organization, SHIELD, has caught many. He yelled, does that mean there are both God and the devil? Salomon was silent, and after a while, he spoke. Yes, he said, you're right. All you're dealing with are aliens, threats from the real world, the Kree, the Skrulls. What we're fighting against are aliens from outer dimensions. The threat of demons, devils, angels, black magic creatures. Why do you look at me with a surprised face? Do you think it is difficult for us to know about this kind of thing? Comatage is a force that has existed for more than 1,000 years, no, this kind of thing is normal. Or, do you want to secretly press your little pager? Salomon stood up from the chair and walked towards Nick Fury on the floor that is now the ceiling. This is the mirror dimension, the signal is it cannot be transmitted to the outside world. Maybe I should let you try. You can call Carol Danvers back, such a bull who only knows how to sway energy. I can trap her to death with a finger. End of this chapter. Chapter 90 Negotiations. When Salomon revealed one of Nick Fury's biggest hole cards, the pupils of the longtime agent couldn't help trembling. For an intelligence agency, or an agent, secrets are equal to weapons, and Salomon revealing secrets is tantamount to disarming Nick Fury. But soon, Nick Fury regained his composure, and his cards were more than that. Now, what he needs to consider is the loss of SHIELD. Salomon's heels rattled against the floor, and he walked around the room without finding anything unrelated to work. He glanced at Nick Fury, feeling that the time he had given him for thinking was enough. He waved his palm again, everything in the room returned to normal. Phoenix also stopped flapping his wings, and stopped on the desk in front of Salomon. You see, we can have a good talk after we calm down. Salomon sat back on the chair. The mystic treated Nick Fury as a poisonous snake, and he would not talk until he pressed the head covered with fine scales. He said, "You think you know a lot of secrets, but you don't." "I know, magic." Nick Fury accepted it quickly. As one of the few Earthlings who knew the existence of aliens, Nick Fury's thinking was far more enlightened than many ordinary people. What incredible things in this world, anything can happen, and magic is one of them. He rubbed his sore arms, then raised his pistol sharply and pointed at Salomon. "This is the only way to negotiate. Tell me, how do you know about Carol Danvers?" "Shoot." Salomon suddenly grabbed the pistol and pointed the muzzle at his head. "That's what the members of the action team did. As for why I wasn't injured, you can try to shoot." Nick Fury didn't move, just looked straight at Salomon. "This is a threat assessment." The mystic impatiently grabbed the pistol and fired a shot at his temple. The bullet stopped suddenly when it approached Salomon, as if it had lost all its kinetic energy. Salomon took off the hot bullet and threw it to Nick Fury along with the pistol. "I have to declare one thing to you," Salomon said. "Kamataj has stood in the world for thousands of years, and knows far more secrets than Shield. I know more than just Carol Danvers, and much more. Do you think a cosmic policeman who has power because of the Rubik's Cube, and only knows how to wield it indiscriminately, can escape the mirror dimension? Magic relies on intellect, not brute force. What do you think is waiting for those fleets? The supreme sorcerer will not let go of a guy who may endanger human civilization, even if this is not a matter of the wizarding world." "Magic world." Nick Fury's tone eased slightly. He glanced at Phoenix. He now also understands that he is alone and helpless, and can only listen to Salomon. "There are many people like you." "Yes, but no matter which magician, even if he is not from Kamataj, as long as he lives on the earth, he must accept the jurisdiction of the supreme magician and hand over part of his magic as a certificate." Salomon said, "You can imagine the supreme sorcerer as the king of the magical world, and I am the supreme sorcerer's student." "Sounds like a dictatorial tyrant," Nick Fury tentatively said. "Perhaps. People in a democratic society usually associate dictatorship with tyrants. It is not surprising that you have received a Western education since childhood." Salomon put his legs up on the desk nonchalantly, and he also untied the Emperor's shawl with the emblem of Eden College is now indoors and does not need to be worn. He said, "The crisis in the wizarding world is more dangerous. Any one of them may destroy the world. We don't have time for a democratic vote. Do you remember when all the satellites disappeared a year ago? It was because of a god and the battle of demons. Even the aftermath of that battle can destroy human civilization. The Supreme Mage activated the planetary defense system in the mirror dimension, protecting the civilization of the Earth. Since it is so dangerous, it should not be out of the government's jurisdiction." Salomon sat up straight suddenly, and he looked at Nick Fury very seriously. "Who do you think you are, Nick Fury? Do you think why humans have not been colonized by aliens so far, just because of good luck? Do you think why the bastards of heaven and hell have not established their own country on earth to rule humans, is it because of kindness? Who do you think is the king of the earth? Every outer dimension beyond your imagination has the footsteps of the Supreme Mage, and under each step lies the corpse of the enemy. It is a throne made of blood and bones. Do you think that the throne was won through hypocritical votes and weak political declarations? Do you think the laws of the world have any meaning for His Holiness? Do gods and demons care who has more votes? In the universe, the only one who has legal dominion over the earth is Kamataj. What about the Salem incident? Does such an organization still need to rob a congressman's jewelry? And the town of Collins, didn't you also do so many murders? Could it be that the supreme sorcerer intends to target him with the butcher knife? The people of the country," Nick Fury said sarcastically. "The event in Salem was to recover a magic item, and I think you probably saw it." Salomon said, "As for the town of Corinth, vampires, werewolves and cliched dark magic creatures, there is just one in Corinth town. A large nest of dark magic creatures. I just cleared them out routinely. Aren't they human? I didn't know you were a sympathizer of black magic creatures, Nick Fury." Salomon showed an extremely disgusted expression. "Whether it is vampires or werewolves, they are plagues that exist in human society, and they reproduce at an extremely fast rate. Quick, as long as they have the will, they can easily transform countless of the same kind. Moreover, after transforming into black magic creatures, they are no longer human beings. One is a dead person, and the other is a beast that can never be cured." Wait, vampires and werewolves don't just exist in Corinth, Did Shield already know that? Yes. Nick Fury readily admitted, I know werewolves and vampires, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has also studied them. But I assure you, these are within the controllable range, we have never added them quantity. I believe you have no selfishness when you study these things. I know what kind of person you are. But don't let me catch you, Nick Fury, I won't care who the werewolves and vampires are, there the result is death. Salomon said, but vampires and werewolves are only a trivial threat, and there are many more terrifying beings threatening the earth. You are the one who can understand this feeling best. You should know that under the proposition of survival, all human civilizations are meaningless. Whether it is democracy or autocracy, no matter what ideology, there is no point in life and death. In any sense, there is no racial distinction in the face of death. Only under this proposition, human beings are truly equal, and those extra-dimensional creatures and aliens will not let someone go because their skin is fairer. Karmatage is the last line of defense for human beings, the barrier between reality and the outer dimension, which is why those mythical creatures do not appear under your bed. Do you still want to watch angels descend and the church restore tithes? Don't let me hear your temptations again, Nick Fury, I've lost my patience, I have always had a good impression of you, at least your SHIELD is solving the mess that capitalist countries and SHIELD very skillful. Then I don't see the Supreme Mage coming to rule the world. Nick Fury spread his hands and said, it sounds like this kind of rule is quite equal. His Holiness narrowed his kingdom to the magic world because magic is not the future of mankind. Salomon said, technology with universal applicability is the future of mankind. After the above conversation, Nick Fury also had a general understanding of what organization Karmatage is. He said, but you also know that the technological gap between us and the aliens is almost impossible for us to catch up. If possible, I would like to get help from magic, in any way, presumably there are more magicians than humans. There are not many, otherwise SHIELD would have discovered it a long time ago, and I can send agents to study with you Karmatage to supplement your numbers. We are fighters fighting together for mankind, and we should be friends, not enemies. The one who chooses who can become a mystic is not me, nor the Supreme Mage, but Vishandi. Salomon stretched out his hand and let Nick Fury look at the ring on his hand. I did not sign a contract with Vishandi. It is impossible for ordinary people to use magic. I understand your small thoughts, but do you think that even if your agents can sign the contract, but instead of joining the outer dimension battlefield and leaking secrets afterwards, will it be regarded as betrayal, will it be cleared? Who is Vishandi? Nick Fury asked. The Holy Trinity Visant is the source of white magic, an omniscient existence, and the first Supreme Mage. I can't name him. Salomon said, but your little calculation is meaningless, as long as those who are qualified to learn magic, Vishandi will guide them to reach Karmatage, and those who are not qualified will not be able to learn if they go there. If you want to spy on magic, then you have to bear the price. Okay, so what's the point of you coming to me? Nick Fury said, don't tell me, it's just because the members of the action team stopped you from going to school? Do wizards still want to live a normal life? You are right, said Salomon, Your Majesty asked me to use my intelligence and physical strength to crush those arrogant Saxons, but your action team members interrupted this plan. I am a little impatient, but I will abide by the decree of the Supreme Mage. Salomon is too young, he still leaks some information in the conversation with Nick Fury. Such as Salomon Daminate will obey the orders of the Supreme Sorcerer, such as Vishandi, such as the existence of magic items, this is purely a matter of experience. You must know that Salomon is an academic mage, not a thief, and you cannot ask him to be impeccable when he speaks. Nick Fury, who knew these things, was quite satisfied, but he never showed it on his face, but continued to pretend to be bitter and hatred. But you killed them, he said. They were only following orders. When I was in Corinth town, I also carried out the order, but I also endured the pain of the choice behind it. Salomon said, anyone has to bear the results of what they do. I bear it, and they have to bear it too. And, maybe in a while, you will thank me, maybe. Okay. Nick Fury nodded. Mercy does not control soldiers, he knows what the lives of those members of the action team have been exchanged for, and to put it a bit arrogantly, it is precisely because of the lives they gave that Salomon Daminate appeared in front of him, and the two sides have opportunity for communication. What do you want? He asked. Don't disturb my life. All surveillance and tracking will be regarded as hostile targets by me. After all, you are not the only one spying on magic. If you send someone over then, I will not show any mercy. As Salomon spoke, he took out a piece of parchment and wrote this on it. Also, you can't reveal to anyone that Karmitage exists, you can't record everything about Karmitage, you can't explain or imply any information about Karmitage to them, including written information and electronic storage. So young, Nick Fury thought. I even thought about writing it out to remind me. I'll do it, why don't we talk about cooperation? Nick Fury said, I think I still need your help personally. Shield appraisal. Yes. Salomon also wrote this on it. He wrote again eloquently, and finally took out the wax from the dimension bag, melted it with flames, and pressed the ring on the little finger of his left hand. He pushed the parchment in front of Nick Fury. Sign it. I don't believe in the promise of an agent, only this document can become an agreement. You mean, this is? Nick Fury realized that this was not a memo at all, but a contract. Magic contract. Salomon said, in order to prevent you from breaking the contract has imposed restrictions on both of us, which is fair and reasonable. Tonight, you will see the scene of hell for yourself. Going in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 91. End of negotiations and lunch. You mean, you want to supervise me? Nick Fury pushed the contract back. So who will supervise you? Even SHIELD is supervised by the World Security Council, so what about Karmitage? Supreme, what about the mage? And, why do you say I'm going to hell? This contract is not a regulation, but a restriction. It is the two of us that are restricted. This is not a devil's contract, but a Vizandi contract. Salomon said, it seems that you still don't understand your position, Nick Fury. You want to use your position as an analogy to the Sorcerer Supreme, but the two are worlds apart. As I told you, the Sorcerer Supreme sits on a throne, and there is no higher status on earth than the Sorcerer Supreme, and those higher level existences I have no right to reveal their names to you, only a very small number of people can know them. If you insist on bringing Karmitage into the supervision of SHIELD, it can only be regarded as a rebellion, and then you will be wiped out. As for why you will go to hell? See which one of the 10 commandments has been violated in the Secret Service business. This is the temptation of Nick Fury, as the king of agents, his every word is full of traps. But Salomon not only jumped over the trap this time, but also issued a warning to him. You didn't give me a reason to sign the contract, and the terms above are not appropriate. Nick Fury was on the office chair, his expression relaxed, as if the temptation just now hadn't hit a wall, and he never said those words, I don't intend to bring Karmitage into supervision. It's better to leave professional matters to professional people. I'm glad you have such an idea. Salomon moved his fingers, whispered a vague spell, and the rapier that was originally at his feet jumped back into his hand. He uttered a spell again, turning the rapier into a silver cane. Nick Fury couldn't help squinting his eyes. Is this an illusion, or deformation? Either way, both spells help casters hide from cameras. This is just a temporary illusion. I can't walk around with a rapier. Phoenix yelled. After hearing this sweet melody, Nick Fury's body movements became extremely slow, and he could only watching Salomon walking towards him with a rapier. I always feel that words alone are not enough to move you, so I decided to let you experience the madness of the magical world for yourself. The unspoken words are, if you still don't accept it, then you can only be brainwashed into an idiot. Anyway, SHIELD is not an organization that must exist, and the capable Maria Hill can also do the job probably, who cares? Nick Fury felt Salomon press on his forehead, and then he pulled himself up and pushed towards a circular door of spinning sparks. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that big bird burning with golden red flames also flew out together, and flew straight towards the sky. Salomon pushed him to a narrow street paved with black stone bricks. It had just rained here, and the stone bricks were still wet, but the air was very fresh, which made Nick Fury's chaotic brain a little clearer. But when he looked up, he didn't think so. This is hallucination. Nick Fury thought to himself. This must be an illusion. Yes, I'm a little dizzy now, this is a wizard's trick, and these disgusting creatures all over the streets in front of me are just a mystic's trick. Slimy, twisted crawlers don't exist. This is the real world, a cramped, cold three-dimensional world, a world made up of precise and ruthless mathematics, a world made up of tiny, almost infinitely divisible particles, not these crazy, non-existent things. Made of creatures, these invisible things do not exist at all, these things don't exist. He widened his bloodshot eyes so that he could see everything on the street. No, don't think about it, I'm an agent, I've seen fucking aliens, I've seen fucking space fleets, don't let these things drive me crazy, I know how incredible the world is, but not these. Quick, if there is any other tricks, hurry up and use it, don't make these illusions." Suddenly someone pushed him from behind, and Nick Fury took a staggering step forward, threw himself behind an old man, and hugged the huge sticky black creature that was dragged behind the old man. This creature has no limbs, a few weak tentacles protruding from its body, and a huge mouth full of spikes, like some mollusk. Nick Fury can feel the slimy surface and coldness of this creature. Body temperature. Before he could completely deny the existence of the thing, the creature opened its huge mouth and swallowed him in. "What do you think of this world?" Salomon walked beside the old man. "Do you think a little change is a good thing?" "Whatever." The old man with eyes looked at Salomon. He said, "It's always good to have a little change, it's time for a new story." "So, you don't mind the changes I've made?" Salomon asked. "As long as you don't run out of Brisson's beer," the old man muttered, "and fried meatballs, it would be a pity if these delicacies disappeared." "I'll try my best, sir." The little mage raised the rapier, cane-shaped, saluted, and stood still watching the old man push the bicycle and disappear around the corner. He didn't expect to meet this boss, but fortunately, this boss didn't care about his existence, which is a good thing. Salomon looked back at the huge black worm squatting in the middle of the street. Its belly was swollen, and there seemed to be something moving inside it. The mystic walked over, stabbed the worm to death with a rapier, and then cut open its stomach, and Nick Fury, covered in digestive juices, rolled out of it. As soon as he came out, he lay on the ground and vomited non-stop, causing passers-by on the street to cast surprised glances at him. In fact, before Salomon rescued him, passers-by who couldn't see the black worm could only see a black man in a black leather jacket struggling with his hands and feet in a strange posture. At that time, they thought it was some kind of funny show. On the contrary, Salomon, a neatly dressed little gentleman with a cane, got a lot of smiles, and he didn't forget to take his little cloak before leaving the office. Nick Fury mopped up the vomit with his hands and got up on all hands and feet. "Where are we?" he asked. "Aren't these your tricks?" He accepted it quickly. After all, anyone who was swallowed by a huge black worm quickly accepted the existence of these creatures. "We're in Amsterdam," said Salomon, covering his nose so he wouldn't inhale the disgusting smell. "The thing that swallowed you was a spirit leech. Don't worry, it's not too harmful, it's just able to absorb some happiness, and people who meet it will kill it. It's just the weakest enemy in the wizarding world. Do you still think ordinary people's weapons are useful to it?" Nick Fury quietly glanced at the phone. He could see the time in the mirror dimension, and he also silently counted his heartbeat. Although it was a bit inaccurate, Salomon didn't even spend a few seconds from New York to Amsterdam. "Clock time. Your portal can teleport this far." He gave up the idea of calling for reinforcements, but asked Salomon, "Is this the same way you travel from London to New York?" "Yes, but I opened the portal in another plane, so no one found me. And because I am not familiar with the Tricurved Wing building, I ran around the SHIELD headquarters for a long time before I found you office." Salomon snapped his fingers, turned around and left. All the sticky digestive juices on Nick Fury's body disappeared, the leather clothes became clean, and the magic that could make people see the abnormal existence also disappeared. "Cancelled, after all, those things are really off-putting." "That's a good trick." Nick Fury raised his eyebrows. He quickened his pace, chased after him and asked, "Which floors did you go to?" "I don't remember." Salomon replied. "It doesn't seem like he's worried at all about Nick Fury's excesses. The fact is also true. Now Nick Fury doesn't care what Salomon saw at the SHIELD headquarters. Only he knows the real hole card, and Captain Marvel can only be regarded as one of his hole cards. "Aren't you afraid that SHIELD will go to war with Carmitage?" Nick Fury asked. "You can't find us, unless you stop me on my way to school like today. Even if you use a nuclear bomb, you can't do anything about the magician, that's the truth." Salomon said, "Other mystics don't have so much leisure time, only I need to go to school. But there is no other way, the Venerable is not only my teacher, but also the #1 magician in the universe, I must obey the orders of the Venerable." "So, you are the most valued disciple of the Supreme Sorcerer, and you have the ability to discuss cooperation with SHIELD? According to you, it seems that there are magicians on other planets." "No, I don't have this authority, and Carmitage will not cooperate with SHIELD. It will never be possible unless you can provide information on black magic creatures. After all, Carmitage has weak sources of information in the world, it is impossible to find werewolves and vampires as soon as they appear, the function of the planetary defense system is not like this. Salomon said, also, magicians are all over the universe, and naturally there are magicians on other planets. The LU people also have their own magicians. If you are interested, I can take you around and tell you a little secret. The Skrulls originated from the Earth. Leave this alone, there is another question. Nick Fury asked, why Amsterdam? Are you here to show me someone? Why do you think so? Salomon stopped and raised his head in doubt, this is Amsterdam, that's all. Then why did you bring me here? Nick Fury also widened his eyes. Come and eat something. I just wanted to eat French fries. Is there any problem in coming to Amsterdam if I want to eat French fries? The French fries here are the best in the world. Salomon raised his legs and walked towards the street. In a shop, after he finished ordering, he motioned to Nick Fury to check out, one of yours, one of mine, and one without sauce. Who is the last one for? The director of SHIELD held his own portion of French fries. Is it really someone you want to meet? No. Salomon threw down a piece of French fries casually, and after feeding a few pigeons, he lifted up the French fries without sauce, and suddenly the fire appeared out of thin air, and then disappeared out of thin air. The fries disappeared even with the cones. It's for Phoenix, and I'm worried it'll lose its hair if it eats salt, he said. Phoenix? Is that your pet? No, that's my subject. End of this chapter. Chapter 92. It's really okay, I'm serious, I've talked to Nick Fury. I know the insurance company doesn't pay, they always have a reason to shirk, so Nick Fury agreed to pay for the car. After all, he was the trouble it caused it. Salomon was sitting on the back seat of a Quinjet fighter jet, talking to Casilios on his mobile phone. Is His Holiness angry? No? Okay, didn't you show anything? No. Let me just say, don't bother the Venerable with stinky fish and rotten shrimps. I must have said this. Who am I talking about? Isn't Nick Fury that? As for going to school, of course I will continue to go to school. This is also one of the conditions I negotiated. Eaton's objection is useless, and the cabinet is even more useless. Who doesn't know who has the final say in the UK? There is still blood on my little emperor's cloak. What? Even the royal family just take a helicopter to go to school, I take a Quinjet fighter jet. Let me see what idiot wants to trouble me. The agent sitting in the driver's seat had an indescribably strange expression on his face. He didn't know whether to report this to his chief. After all, someone was speaking ill of the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. However, he gave up this plan, not only because he and his colleagues also spoke ill of the director in private, but also because there was another agent with a higher rank and higher position on the plane. After a long time, Salomon hung up the phone and looked at the woman who sat facing the gloomy face. Well, or rather, a woman pretending to be sullen. Who the hell are you? Natasha Romanoff asked. She was in Washington when she directed the operation before, and she asked for leave to direct the operation while Pepper Potts was negotiating with the real estate agent about the Stark Group's building in Washington. She originally thought that this operation would be foolproof, but she didn't expect it to be. Weird things happened one after another. Today, their agents in London have picked up the dead and seriously injured agents from the London police. When Salomon was talking with Nick Fury, she had carefully read the autopsy report and on-site inspection report. She can't believe a rapier could pierce the roof of an armored car. I think, you probably don't have the right to know, you can only know my name. Agent Natasha Romanoff, your curiosity makes you want to spy on things you shouldn't know. Salomon quietly shook his hand in addition to the rapier on his knee, still in the shape of a cane. He has already negotiated with Nick Fury, and the Vivendi contract has also been signed after adding certain clauses. But now it seems that Nick Fury is not dead, and he still wants to ask his own agents to conduct a test, trying to see if he can know more information. Salomon agreed with Nick Fury to provide him with information about dark magic creatures, and SHIELD also promised not to intervene in the magic side of the incident. But Nick Fury still asked Salomon to notify SHIELD in the event of a large-scale disaster. Although SHIELD could not intervene in the battle, it could at least help evacuate the crowd. This actually helped Karmitage. Salomon has no reason not to agree. At the same time, Salomon also revealed his bottom line. If SHIELD reveals the secret of Karmitage's existence, or someone attacks Karmitage's mystic, or mystic apprentice, Nick Fury must give Salomon an explanation, otherwise Salomon will stare at the United States and start, the officials in Congress and the White House have changed batch after batch. Even if Salomon is slaughtered, there will be another batch, then Salomon will kill until someone gives an explanation. No one can stop him. Even His Holiness will agree with him to do so, because attacking Karmitage is already tantamount to rebellion. As for the human rights, democracy and freedom that the US government shouts, sorry, this set of arguments Karmitage doesn't work. As for taking Nick Fury to visit the Abyss, it has been postponed indefinitely. He doesn't want someone to tamper with his head, even in a dream. Salomon also respects Nick Fury's ideas and plans to take him there after he dies. But you killed them, Natasha Romanoff said, staring at Salomon. You know exactly what you're doing, don't you? Poor woman. Salomon didn't answer her question, but looked straight into her eyes without any scruples. He said, your mind has been broken and rebuilt so many times, do you still know who you are now? Or is this the key to your becoming a top-secret agent? Black Widow just stared at Salomon, trying to see something from him. It now appears that he is as arrogant a bastard as Tony Stark. I know how despicable the job of an agent is, and you have paid a lot for a top agent to climb to this position. Every part of your mind can make you lie calmly, devote yourself to the mission, and be able to do it when the mission needs it most. Sometimes you can easily turn your face, maybe in your own eyes, you are a monster. Salomon said frankly, but believe me, if someone accuses you, it is because they have not experienced what you have experienced. You have already done it. The best thing I can do, you can sit here alive as a proof, and anyone who accuses you of being a spy will not know your outstanding achievements and abilities. Thank you for your understanding, really. The Black Widow had doubts in her eyes. What Salomon said is indeed true. Her broken mind is indeed one of the keys to her becoming a top agent, and the graduation ceremony in the Red House made her feel like a monster. Even in SHIELD. Sometimes I feel like an outsider. But where did Salomon de Monet get the information? Even if Nick Fury trusted him again and showed him the secret agent information, these were not written in the file. Don't worry, Nick Fury won't use you as a scapegoat, he is still a bit human to his best agent. Salomon said, when you look into my eyes. You should be careful, let me see your heart. So this is your ability, mind reading? Our intelligence is all wrong. Natasha Romanoff shifted her gaze pretending to be calm, and at the same time her thoughts shifted to other places. She didn't know how to deal with it mind readers, but this might work. Even she didn't realize it, her attitude towards Salomon became softer, and she didn't feel angry at Salomon's behavior of spying on the soul. This is not a very difficult magic, and even the effect is not as good as charm human, but the effect of the trick friendship art is not as abrupt as it seems. Facing an agent, any action will make her suspicious. You can think so, Salomon said, but no matter what, S.H.I.E.L.D's intelligence will always be wrong, even if you correct my file. If S.H.I.E.L.D. has my file, could it still be magic? Natasha Romanoff said casually, but Salomon remained silent. What is this? Feminine intuition? Black Widow looked at Salomon. Oh, am I right? It doesn't matter what you think, really, until Nick Fury is willing to reveal the secret to you. Salomon put on the hanging ring and cast a spell, and the Quinjet fighter jet flying at supersonic speed crossed the Atlantic Ocean in an instant and arrived London. This change made the pilots flustered, but the excellent pilots stabilized the plane, hovered the Quinjet fighter over the Eton College, and then landed slowly. Salomon said to Black Widow, but you don't know until you need to know. You don't need to know this to know if you need to know. All you need to know is that you don't need to know until you need to know. Knowing you will know what you need to know. What? It's a specialty of Eden, long and difficult English sentences, a gentleman's patent. Salomon paused for a rapier, cane, and said, besides, it's not surprising that I said those words. I'm not a machismo. The most powerful people are women, that's why I understand you. You need a therapist, but I'm not an expert in this field. I believe S.H.I.E.L.D. will find the therapist. Now, I should get off the plane, I'm still a student. Wait. Agent Natasha stood up and took out a laptop from a side bag. Nick Fury gave you a gift. Eton High School students need a laptop for their homework, don't they? No problem. Salomon took the laptop, he said, I know S.H.I.E.L.D. installed a backdoor in it, so Nick Fury can rest assured that I won't use this computer to hack, let alone not jerking off to the screen. Remote control this computer if you can, and have that InfoSec guy do my homework for me. You already know, so what's the point? Black Widow said with a smile. She was completely unaware that her attitude towards Salomon had softened, and she couldn't even remember the fact that Agent Coulson was under review. At least it will give me time to order some senior students to bring me tea and water, and this is the UK, and Eden is a full-time school, the atmosphere is a bit strange. Although I am not interested in men's prison wallets, but I will enjoy the feeling of instructing them, you can't imagine what disgusting picture I am thinking. Salomon said, although I have not been to it, I can be sure that the toilet here must be very interesting. Okay, goodbye, little gentleman. Natasha Romanoff opened the hatch and watched Salomon go down. I was wrong, you are completely different from Tony Stark, you are not such a bastard. You finally found out, I thought I would show more. Salomon nodded at her, goodbye, Ms. Romanoff. I wish you a good mood. When the hatch of the Quinjet fighter was closed again and Salomon disappeared from Natasha Romanoff's eyes, the faint smile on Black Widow's face also disappeared, and she shook her head slightly. Salomon Lawman's magic effect has long been outdated, and all the facial expressions and dialogues after that are her performances that follow the flow. The purpose is to get more information. It now appears that her work is still fruitful. End of this chapter. Chapter 93 Adolescence. Natasha Romanoff did not get much information from Salomon, only information such as how many powerful women around Salomon, but even Nick Fury would not feel that Natasha got little news because Salomon and he had been shopping in the red light district of Amsterdam, really just going to eat, for so long, and Nick Fury didn't see Salomon showing any flaws. Like an adolescent high school student. It may also be the reason why the girls did not get up. According to the agreement, Nick Fury helped Salomon get through the relationship with Eden College. The principal was very familiar with this kind of thing and quickly agreed. You must know that this is a noble middle school, where the children of many politicians go to school, even including the royal family. The principal can quickly arrange the timetable for the students who need to attend the event. However, also due to the contract, Nick Fury could not disclose Salomon's information, so MI, who learned of the matter, returned without success after probing. And this incident was not widely known, because MI is a non-existent organization, and the British government will never recognize its existence, even if the public is familiar with it. Salomon was assigned to a single dormitory with an independent bathroom. This was a joint effect of the Emperor's scholarship and the relationship with SHIELD. At the same time, the rules in this old Eden dormitory were much stricter. No loud noises, you are not allowed to run in the corridors, you must dress neatly when you leave the dormitory, and go to bed with the lights off. Even though only Emperor scholarship recipients can live here, there are still people who often apply to move out of the old dormitory because they cannot bear such rules. Salomon is very satisfied with the environment and rules here, because none of the people who can stay here is a playboy, and the quiet environment here is exactly what he needs. After visiting the statue of Henry VI, he was taken into the dormitory by the dormitory supervisor. He bought the daily necessities and stationery he needed, as well as a pile of textbooks and extracurricular books, including but not limited to Shakespeare's Hamlet and Macbeth, but Salomon's favorite is the line in The Merchant of Venice, "Why does a man with blood flowing in his body sit so upright, just like the plaster statue of his grandfather," is really a classic. And Salomon came at the right time, he could still catch up with a lunch at p.m. He ended today's trip after quickly joining several clubs. On the first day of school, the principal only hoped that those the pampered and pampered buddies were able to get familiar with the full-time school environment as soon as possible, so they didn't assign too many tasks. Salomon returned to the dormitory, and after sealing the bedroom door with magic, he directed his invisible servants to clean up and lay bedding. Portal, back to Carmitage. You may not believe it, but after getting used to the cold air of the mountains, I can't breathe well when I return to the warm and humid ground. Salomon walked towards Casilios on the training ground. It is unbelievable that I found several couples without saying hello to my classmates. Is there nothing you want to be busy there? Casilios put his hand on Salomon's shoulder. Society, lecture, you should at least read your textbooks. I'm here to deliver a check. Salomon took out a check from his tuxedo pocket. The money on this is enough for us to buy a new car, which is better than our old car. Oh. Be careful, you will make Detroiters angry when you say that. There are only 2 jobs in that city, and you insult one of them. Our cars are not as bad as you say, right? Mataji and Casilios also combed back his short grey hair. He took the check with a smile, and did not look at the amount on it, but looked at Salomon's face seriously. Are you on the phone? Lee has never said anything about SHIELD. Did S.H.I.E.L.D. discover Comitage? They also know a name, and they don't even know where we are. Salomon said, instead, I also signed a contract with the director of SHIELD. He cannot disclose what he knows about Kamataj. He can't even say Karmataj's name without my consent, whether it's a paper document or an electronic device. He didn't agree to this. Vizendy's magic contract is magic contract, which is much more trustworthy than capitalists. I've been very worried about you, Casilios said. I want you to face those old foxes. They are some of the most outstanding people among ordinary people. I'm worried that you will be tricked by accident. Well, I know this is the doubt that I have not had contact with the outside world for many years. Maybe you will not object to the task given to me by the Venerable like before. If it weren't for the previous task, maybe I don't even know how to greet others, and now I have to learn how to speak. You're right, but only partly. In general, I still object to most of the mission content. Casilios patted Salomon's shoulder. Now, go and enjoy your student life. If you feel boring, you can try to rule those sons with a belt. Humph, dirty American prison joke. Salomon waved his hand. See you after dinner. You smell like blood. Bayonetta was resting on Salomon's lap, holding the grey short-haired cat in her arms. You fought with your classmates on the first day. The nosebleeds of a few idiots don't have such a strong bloody smell. Salomon stroked Bunetta's thick black long hair, trying not to move his eyes in another direction, because Bunetta was dressed it's just too thin. But after all, this is in her residence, so you can't force too much. I was attacked and the only one who survived had to eat through a straw, he said. Who? Bayonetta asked casually. Don't worry, I've taken care of it, including the attacker's boss. Salomon said. Now, Shield won't bother me. Oh? A female spy. A pistol appeared out of nowhere in Bayonetta's hand, and she held it against Salomon's chin. Then which female spy does the perfume smell on your body belong to? Or how many? It really makes Big Sister sad. Boya, you cheated. You know that nothing happened between me and the female spy, Bunetta, I'm underage. Salomon said helplessly, without looking at the pistol. He continued to play with Bunetta's long hair. Ever since Salomon needed to go to school and Joan of Arc needed to go to work, Bunetta's boredom became more and more unbearable. Everyone had something to do, but she was the only one who was in a panic. The Ragnar Order went bankrupt, the high technology has also been robbed by spies from all over the world, and the angels recruited by the nun only have some small roles, and the death of Jubilus frightened them out of their wits. Bayonetta threw away the pistol, wrapped her white and soft arms around Salomon's neck, and the grey short-hair cat rolled off the sofa. The Cheshire cat meowed disapprovingly, but its protests were never heeded. Is it okay when you're an adult? She said. What you say doesn't count, but what I say counts. Now, no one can smell that bitch's perfume. Do you know that this behavior is similar to wild animals, Bayonetta? Salomon's muffled voice sounded. You are like a lioness now. I have always been. Bayonetta said nonchalantly. You are already my prey, Boya, you cannot escape. Well, you have the final say. Bayonetta didn't let go until Salomon kissed the bare and soft skin lightly. You have grown up, and it's time for Big Sister to teach you some adult things. She licked her lips, but Big Sister has never faced adolescent boys, and the estrus period of human beings is exactly the difficult time. Manage. I'll go first, Bayonetta. Salomon kissed Bayonetta's hand again, with a slightly embarrassed expression. I don't want to grow taller. Then you have to eat more, Big Sister will not give up high heels for you. Bunetta blinked. Also, don't solve it by yourself, adolescent boys like this, you can tell Big Sister, I will help. You should know that the power of gods is not only reflected in strength, but also in senses that are much stronger than ordinary people. Athena said, I smell two kinds of perfume on you right now. Does Eden still have two mature women? One belongs to a female spy, and the other belongs to a witch. Salomon answered truthfully. Is this an adolescent boy? Isn't it enough to provoke a witch? Now you have a female spy. Athena rolled her eyes. It's 9 o'clock in the evening, shouldn't you be in school now? I'm here to get some books, Athena. Salomon said helplessly, I really don't understand why European schools assign so many extreme homework. Do they want high school students to become scientists now? I'm a scientist too, boy, said Athena. I have a PhD in genetics, and I taught myself to study what happened to those kids. Guess what? I passed, and I studied classical literature, which to me is like journalism, not classical. I've gone to every one of the European institutions of higher learning, and it's not too difficult. I knew that there are not many PhDs in this world, so I can't say hello to others. Salomon said, it's a pity that neither the female spy nor the witch has any academic qualifications. Then you should get rid of that kind of woman, Salomon. A woman without education has no future. Athena said very seriously. You speak as if you were my mother, Athena. I am. I trained you, and the Supreme Master and I are your mother. Boy, shut up now. Stay away from those women, get a few Ph.D. certificates first, and then think about women. I'm still underage. Do you know how many heroes I've seen fell because of women? You should know. Salomon rolled his eyes again. End of this chapter. Chapter 94 Alchemy and Help. Classical literature, interesting. Why do I still need to study thermodynamics? Isn't this a university course? Celestial mechanics? I went to high school, not a thermonuclear research institute. Athena has already regarded it as the arrival of the rebellious period. Salomon couldn't help complaining, you don't expect me to build a nuclear reactor right now, do you? Shut up, and follow my arrangement. The Supreme Mage doesn't have a diploma, but I do. I will arrange all your courses. Athena suddenly became irritable, in a sense, I am your mother, you have to listen my arrangements. But this is not the time of ancient Greece. This is the rebellious period. The more I ask you to do something, the more you want to resist. Why can't you listen to me like the Supreme Mage? Athena took a long breath, patted her chest and said, well, let's talk openly and honestly. I know that full-time school makes you uncomfortable, but your life can't be just magic, you should have some ordinary people's ideas, you should have wine and flowers, these things will not be outdated even after thousands of years. I know you now, the hormones secreted in the body will make you think I am annoying, but you should also have what ordinary people have. Athena said, I have prepared a gift for you, a Ducati motorcycle. I know you won't stay in school all the time, so the car is downstairs, it's a gift from me, you can ride it, go for a drive in the street, and have a relationship with some ordinary girls, even if you bring, I don't care if they go overnight, as long as you remember to wear a condom. You've already taken sex education classes. But not spies and witches, you can't control them, they will use you. Let's not talk about whether I'm interested in motorcycles. Salomon said hesitantly, you should know that I'm an egalitarian. That's good, you are at least much smarter than the ancient Greeks, they didn't even give women the right to vote. Athena raised her eyebrows, ever since they voted to execute Socrates, I think they are a bunch of idiots. Damn. What's the matter, keep talking. I don't think there's anything wrong with a witch, Athena. Salomon was almost choked, and it was a bit tiring to talk to the longevity species, this is a game between emotions. Two people need to get along with each other when they get along. Besides, I really have nothing to do with female spies. My old lady has lived for so long, what bitch hasn't seen it? Athena squirmed her lips, but swallowed the sentence anyway, and she planned to express it in another way. But before she could speak, Salomon spoke first. These are rarely expressed in love movies. I think you may not have experience. After all, you are a virgin. But I live long. I don't think the previous dramas would show this aspect. But I live long. Anything else? I'm back to Carmitage. Remember to come tomorrow night, you have missed the appointment with little Lorna. Salomon's full-time school life is no different from that at a private secondary school. Sleep in Carmitage until 7 o'clock in the morning London time, then get up and open the portal to return to the dormitory of Eden College to wash. Put on clothes and cloak, in order to let the supervisor see him, and then enjoy the unique old dormitory 16th century English court breakfasts. If you don't like it, you can choose a modern recipe, but smart people know how to choose, don't they? His main courses include mathematics, physics, chemistry and an advanced mathematics course, which is the most useful course for him, because most of his magic requires precise calculations to work, and he needs to use that as the intelligence attribute. As he is in the D grade group, he needs to study in a total of 10 study groups, in addition to the above 4 homework and PE courses. He also has art courses, mainly drama, classical languages, ancient Greek and Latin, modern foreign languages, actually Chinese, theology and modern English, counted as 2 study groups, although most of them are not A-level subjects, they are also compulsory courses at his grade. And Salomon's favorite courses are nothing more than chemistry and physics. Although these 2 courses made him miserable in his previous life, Eden College has a wealth of practical opportunities, and Salomon can complete his homework. In addition, he used the equipment here to complete his alchemy works. He didn't intend to practice the way of the shapeshifter alchemist on himself. Those alchemists who took the mutation potion and then scratched people seemed a little crazy to him. He plans to start with alchemy bombs and healing potions. The short-term goal is to make an inspiration medicine to inspire inspiration and improve brain power. As for the future, he wants to become an enlightened chemist who is good at brain power, or a creative scholar who is good at making constructs, or even a pharmacist who is proficient in hand-to-hand combat. Depends on what his magic path needs in the future. As for the source of alchemy materials, he bought them through the portal of Kamataj to the wizard city of Vandazarfu between dimensions. All the mystics will come here to communicate, which is equivalent to the doorless bar in all dimensions, which is only open to spellcasters. Vandajarfu was also the source of Kamataj's vast array of magical materials, and Salomon's herbal order didn't go unnoticed by anyone. In addition, he also secretly caught a blue ogre slug from the garden of Vandazarfu and put it in a box. This slimy magical creature has nothing useful on it, it can't be beat. Called the scum of magical creatures, the bottom kind, these slugs can be found everywhere in Vandazarfu's garden, and the only thing it deserves is the magic eating point. Salomon didn't want to pour the potion he had failed into the sewer casually. Who knows if 4 turtles wearing different colored turbans would come out of the sewer one day and call him daddy. He wasn't ready yet. Now there's a Diabolus that happens to be disposing of his alchemy waste as well. In Salomon's mind, Eton College would certainly not mind the loss of a few flasks and the loss of the housekeeper's wine corks, and it is true, no one cares about this except the housemaster who was splashed with red wine. Little things. God, the mystic suddenly reacted. Did I go to Eton or Hogwarts? How do you feel that there is not much difference between the two? However, this kind of ridiculous idea was quickly left behind by Salomon, because there was another thing that bothered him a little bit. Because Nick Fury would send him text messages every day. But after sending text messages a little, he didn't mention his business, but tried to inquire about his location. Because Salomon will turn off his mobile phone when he goes to the apartment of Mount Athena and Bunita, so as to avoid being traced by the shield. This kind of organization that monitors the world has also got involved. In Nick Fury's mind, Salomon is an extremely dangerous figure, a magic killer who never obeys the law, only obeys the precepts of an ancient organization, and has global mobility. He didn't believe that the precepts of this organization included no killing. He had already seen the fate of the members of the action team. Now the survivor could only barely survive by lying on the bed and drinking juice. And because of the contract, he couldn't disclose Salomon's information to his agents and colleagues, so the king of agents could only act as Salomon's monitor by himself. This kind of surveillance was carried out every day, as long as Salomon kept turn it off and on again, and you'll be bombarded with text messages from Nick Fury. Nick Fury knows that this kind of behavior is useless, because he cannot restrict the mystic through any national means, and even doing so may cause the mystic to fight back. And there is an organization behind Salomon that is much longer than the history of the United States. Nick Fury will not be boring himself, all he can do is send text messages. Even though Salomon responded to texts at first, after months of being bombarded with text messages, he has learned to ignore messages from Nick Fury. But he also can't blacklist Nick Fury because he'll be texting from a different number. I don't want to use my love text messages on a man, please let Agent Natasha Romanoff do this kind of thing, although I know she is busy, but after I know that there is a beautiful woman on the other end of the phone will feel better psychologically. Your bald head doesn't make me happy at all. No insurance, no loan, already receiving unemployment benefits, get divorced, I want a baby, fusion detected on the way. Strike, pick one, you can pick my autoresponder. Salomon pressed the phone and set a timed message to be sent. He had deliberately calculated that this text message would be sent late at night, Washington time, as a price for Nick Fury to disturb him. The mystic ended his day contentedly. Tomorrow will be his 3rd month at Eton College. Except for off-campus work and the morning assembly in the chapel, he has completed all his studies perfectly. He has no participating in debates and chorus activities between any dormitories. Sports only guarantees the minimum exercise time. Other than that he has no shortcomings, even the strict dormitory master can't find any faults with his dining etiquette. Michael's term was coming to an end, and he was facing an exam and a report, but that was no problem for him. At 9 o'clock in the evening London time, that is, 2 o'clock in the morning Washington time, Salomon had just taken a panacea made by himself note 2, so that he could cheer up and read the magic book, the text message sent after going out. Nick Fury also quickly replied a text message. Salomon glanced curiously. He was very curious about why this guy stayed up late at night, and which automatic reply Nick Fury chose. In fact, the latter reason was the key point. Let's talk, Nick Fury texted. I need your help. No. Salomon flatly refused. Because Nick Fury did not choose to reply automatically, unless it is stated in the contract, I will not help. Nick Fury's message came back quickly, I have a location for a vampire's lair, but it's not in New York or Washington, I'm helping you, but I have another thing to ask you for, how about it? Peter pays Paul, a proverb that means like-minded people help each other, ... Give me the address of the vampire. Salomon dialed the phone, then tell me what you want to do. End of this chapter. Chapter 95. This is a world of science. As you know, I believe you must have discovered Stark. Before Nick Fury finished speaking, he was interrupted mercilessly by Salomon. Shut up, lithium dioxide. He said, now, tell me the address of the vampire's lair. I want to rush to the end of Michaelmas term and before the arrival of Lent, I will call my brothers and sisters, like going to Uniqlo, go in there like grab a t-shirt and kill all those gutter rats. Well, maybe not that crazy. Wait, why do you want lithium superoxide? Nick Fury asked, you also know that lithium dioxide is difficult to store at room temperature, and now the scientific community is overcoming this problem. Or do you want Stark to make it for you? Lithium dioxide, you will help him? Are you developing some magic lithium air battery? This is an interesting topic, and I can help, but not now. It can't be said that lithium dioxide can, wait. Salomon suddenly reacted. Lithium dioxide can only be prepared at Kelvin, and only in matrix isolation laboratories. Even if SHIELD travels through time and space to plan the lithium air battery of the US Department of Energy, and there is a way to get this thing out, it can ensure that superoxide ions and lithium ions remain stable and do not decompose at room temperature, but alkali metal oxides reacting with the water in the blood can also kill Stark. What do you want? Nick Fury picked up the phone and glanced at it, but the call was still connected. Hello? Are you listening? Tell me that SHIELD has something to temporarily relieve the symptoms of palladium poisoning. Salomon's voice sounded extremely serious. Hell, why does the world talk about science so much, then how come those people who were splashed with chemical waste didn't die, and got a little bit of superpower? We don't have it. Nick Fury said, extremely dissatisfied. If SHIELD has this technology, then Stark will too. Then he won't have the tendency to self-destruct like he is now. It doesn't make sense. Salomon's voice raised involuntarily, and he sighed again. The problem of the parallel world made his head dizzy. He didn't know that it was because S.H.I.E.L.D. hid the cards. The reason is that the universe has changed to adapt to his arrival. Then why? Well, I can't make a magic potion to treat poisoning for the time being. I can only restore his body, but I don't know that potion can be useful, and I don't know what palladium poisoning is. Kind of. What Salomon was talking about were restoration potions and poison neutralizing potions. These potions were all 4-ring potions, and he couldn't make them at his current level. His alchemy level can only make the 2nd-ring medicine at most, which is impossible. He still has to go to school, and not every night the chemistry lab is empty. It is a good place for a date. That's enough, Salomon. Nick Fury said, I can provide any material you need. I need diamonds worth 2 pounds of gold, and then you have to grind them into powder. I know you don't have any shortage of these things, the price of diamonds is just inflated. Salomon embezzled a little bit of spellcasting materials. The secondary restoration potion does not need diamond dust, only the restoration is needed, but this is no big deal, whose spellcasting materials are not saved in this way. He said, I will give you 3 medicines, and you have to let him take them in order. It stands to reason that the alchemist's potion cannot be used by anyone other than the alchemist himself, but Salomon is very familiar with the technique of instilling his own magic power into the potion, which is a skill that every mystic of Kamatage will know, so he will agree to Nick Fury's request. Which 3? The first is the panacea, which can slightly increase Stark's resistance to poison. The second is the poison-slowing potion, which can make the user temporarily immune to poison, which can last for several hours. The third is a recovery potion, which can restore the body of the person who took the drug before the poisoning, allowing him to resist for a period of time. After finishing speaking, Salomon couldn't help but pause. Well, why is Stark's spinach juice so unpalatable? The culprit has been found, so it's no wonder that it still tastes good after pouring so many alchemy potions. Damn multiverse, damn multiple realities. Would you like to come? Nick Fury asked. I'm still in the office. Besides, what you want will be ready in an hour. Put the diamond dust there, and I'll get it myself. Diamond dust is still worth a trip, but Salomon is not in a hurry, because Van Dazerfu can also buy diamond dust. This thing is not too rare in the universe, his alchemy potion can be used to settle the bill. He just didn't want to go there again. It's not so easy to sneak to the dimension relay point. How long will it take to end this? Nick Fury said, I'm afraid Stark won't be able to survive until a solution is found. I still have an exam. Salomon yelled, did you forget that I am a high school student? And I have a report to write, I am a fucking top student. And this report is in that chapel where I play deaf all the time. You know what, I'm going crazy. Those idiots are praising God every Saturday. And singing hymns. I understand you very well, but I need you as soon as possible, because Stark's life is about to fail. Nick Fury opened the drawer, which contained Stark's medical report. Graham's blood test records are here. But what puzzled him greatly was, why is this guy still alive now? The skin of normal people has problems long ago, and proteinuria and ketone body urine should have appeared long ago. But this does not prevent Nick Fury from carrying out actions to save Tony Stark. Well, since you're in a hurry, I won't distill it with tap water, Salomon said. But it's better to wait until my exam is over. At that time, I can give you all the potions. ASAP. It's not for me to decide, it's for Eton College to decide. Look, even though you've discussed your A-level options with a subject specialist, it still has to be signed by me. Guess what? I'm your guardian too, with your Karmatage's Kassiri Orth's mystic, but I don't believe that guy can take your education seriously, only I can, Salomon. Athena held a pen in her hand and said arrogantly. At the end of Michaelmas term, Athena came to Eden because she had to talk to the headmaster about Salomon's studies. All was well, Salomon's grades were good, no messing with classmates at the same time, he was not punished for copying Latin hexameter poems, but there was a problem with the courses he chose. Do you want to study classics at Oxford in the future? Or do you want to enter the seminary? Or do you want to participate in politics and go to Oxford University Christian College? Athena said, your engineering grades are better than liberal arts grades. Too much. Do you see the use of those languages that the Supreme Master made you learn? Ancient Greek and Latin are your common languages, but every time I see you watching those ancient Greek dramas you will yawn. Since when did you become interested in classical literature? I'm just trying to be lazy, Athena, said Salomon, and there's nothing wrong with Christ Church College, at least it's Hogwarts Castle. It's no wonder a wizard lives there. And want to turn the Oxford University Library into the library in the movie. Be serious, Salomon. Athena frowned, Minerva, call me Minerva here. Well, Minerva. Salomon said, I don't need to work at all in the future. I have my own research projects, and engineering can only squeeze my research time. Do I still have to be a researcher in the future? You knowing it's impossible, I've belonged to magic all my life, and I don't want to leave. But science and magic don't conflict, said Athena. You can even combine the two. What is that? Is it possible to cast spells accurately and accurately through artificial intelligence? Salomon said, the scientific knowledge given to me by the Book of Angel Raziel is enough, I just need to learn that. But you know what the Book of Angel Raziel is, right? You should also know that no one can read the entire book, right? Athena raised her voice again, you have the proof of wisdom given by God, but you still need to learn the truth of the world. Mathematics, physics, and chemistry are all compulsory courses for you, and they can remind you what kind of waking world you live in. I don't think this is a problem, Minerva. Salomon said, the advanced mathematics I have learned so far is enough for me to use. If it is not enough, I will attend. It's not that simple. Athena said dissatisfiedly, I will discuss your course selection with the Supreme Mage. Before the arrival of Lent, we still have a choice. At that time, the decision will not be yours, nor mine. How about the Supreme Mage? Say, do what you do. I have always obeyed His Holiness' orders. Salomon spread his hands, otherwise, why would I come to this place? I suspect that His Holiness sent me here because he wanted to rob my refrigerator completely, otherwise can't explain why my snacks are less every time. Full-time school can't trap you at all, you have to go to the witch's place at noon every day. You can't hide it from me, boy, I can smell the perfume, and you don't care about what I say. I haven't seen those children for several days. Athena raised her hand and poked Salomon's forehead with her fingers. Adolescent boys grow taller really fast. In just a few months, Salomon's height jumped a few centimeters. Coupled with the blessing of positive energy, his height is almost equal to that of Athena. He can only repurchase several Eden tuxedos. Okay, okay. The mystic closed his eyes and raised his hands in surrender. I promise, I will visit them in the orphanage tonight. Look, I came after the exam. I also informed Karmitage that the vampire lair in Chicago has been completely emptied. Salomon sat across from Nick Fury's desk. Working agent Maria Hill, who was organizing files at the desk, ignored him. She didn't even know that Nick Fury was sitting in the chair next to her. Have you brought the goods? This is exactly the same as the little gangsters I met on the corner of the block when I was a child. Nick Fury pushed the safe suitcase across the table. I can't think of what you want to use these gem powders for. Diamonds are one of the materials for casting positive energy spells. Salomon opened the box and checked the materials, then took out 10 bottles of potion from his satchel. These potions come in 3 different colors. There are 4 bottles of panacea, and the duration is the shortest. There are also 4 bottles of anti-poison, and 2 bottles of recovery potion. This time there is a discount, because it involves my subject. Next time there will be no more. Don't be delusional, I will tell you my subject, I still haven't clarified the problems in it. Aren't you worried that SHIELD will analyze your potion? Nick Fury said calmly. This was also his test. He was testing whether Salomon would dislike the outflow of magic items. He said, I remember you invented a portable chemical analyzer. We can't fully analyze the technology in it. Isn't that also a magical product? I think that thing is very useful and extremely accurate. No, that's a technology product. Salomon said, it's just not Earth technology. And I don't think SHIELD can analyze my alchemy potions, even with the chemical analyzer I made, because you have no knowledge of alchemy, not to mention my chemical analyzer is a castrated version. You mean, you have alien technology? His one eye shone brightly. But I think that's not the point. Focus on the transaction. After you count, our transaction will be completed. At least our transaction will not end in a shootout like a punk. Salomon said, if these potions it doesn't work, I have another thing, a technological artifact, a potion that doesn't exist on Earth. Nick Fury said jokingly, so you've switched to science. No, both magic and science are the truth, and I'm still walking on the path of magic. The reason why Salomon said this was entirely because he agreed with Athena's proposal that the A-level courses were still engineering. Those are just byproducts of my exploration of the truth. End of this chapter. Chapter 96 The Enthronement Ceremony of the Dumb Prince. Salomon agreed to Nick Fury's request not only because he suddenly discovered that this world talks about science and to explore the differences in parallel worlds, but also because of something in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., that is, Howard Stark's the box, as well as the documents in it. Howard is a member of the Holy S.H.I.E.L.D. Brotherhood, his technology has been used by S.H.I.E.L.D. to this day, and even the Coulson team that will be established in the future will also use Howard Stark's technology. Salomon intends to check the box left by Howard Stark to see if there are any clues inside. He didn't know what the Holy S.H.I.E.L.D. Brotherhood in this world would be like, and he hadn't read all the manuscripts in the Church of the Holy Cross. But he could guess with his toes that Leonardo da Vinci would never keep the files of the Brotherhood of the S.H.I.E.L.D. together with the normal manuscripts. Among those manuscripts, the most useful to him are the alchemy works of the Franciscans and the alchemy records of the Holy S.H.I.E.L.D. Brotherhood. It is with those documents and his memory that his alchemy level can be improved. Such leaps and bounds. And the reason why he boldly handed the potion to Nick Fury was not only because he was not worried about S.H.I.E.L.D. cracking his alchemy, but also because he used the infusion refining technique to keep the potion he made in the water. What is infused is the positive energy of Weiss Sandy. Divine magic is a kind of spell that shapes the formation of positive energy. The medical sub-school of conjuration also focuses on the application of positive energy. Whether it is treating trauma or removing negative effects, expelling undead creatures or fighting lower plane creatures, it is all positive energy. Areas of expertise. It is precisely because of this that Salomon was able to use the spell Heal Wounds to heal himself after he became the warlock of Emperor Weiss Sandy. But positive energy isn't always a good thing, as is any excess of energy that gets out of hand. The magisters of Comitage, magisters, warlocks, and warlocks can be called whatever, after accepting the positive energy link of Visendi may lead to changes in behavior and beliefs, and the magisters will unconsciously time to be passionate and devoted to the great cause of destroying undead creatures, demons, and protecting the innocent. Although this change is very slight, also because most of the mystic masters are not high level, even I can't detect it, but it still has some impact after. All this is also the beginning of the small conflict between the Supreme Mage and Emperor Weishan. As for the worst side of positive energy, it is completely disordered positive energy. Even the energy released by the energy guide priest is orderly. A completely out of control positive energy is no less than a disaster. Salomon had predicted that Nick Fury would definitely study the medicine he provided, and would only provide it to Stark when necessary. It's fine if SHIELD has nothing to do with these positive energies, but if they really have a way to extract these positive energies and act on living things, then those positive energies that are completely out of control will lead to crazy proliferation of flesh and blood, making experimental animals grow hands and feet and heads, or simply turn into a giant, living tumor. It's him showing Nick Fury the dangers of magic, and it's a warning because he knows SHIELD is good at causing trouble, too. When Salomon made his request, Nick Fury refused after thinking for a while. Everything was as he expected. When he asked for Salomon's help, he heard the disbelief in Salomon's tone. Although he didn't know why Salomon felt incredible, the agent's intuition made him do it subconsciously. There was a trial. He didn't know where Salomon's news came from, and he had nothing to do with the source, but he could test Salomon's intelligence range and find intelligence blind spots, because he wanted to find Salomon's weaknesses. The king of secret agents doesn't trust anyone, including himself. Now Salomon himself has brought up Howard's box, which also puts a limit on Nick Fury's supposed intelligence. Unsurprisingly, Nick Fury refused. Because this was another deal, and he needed to rummage through the boxes again, trying to find something that he might have overlooked and that Salomon might need. After rummaging, he can make the next transaction. The negotiation broke down. Salomon picked up the diamond dust, opened the portal and sent Nick Fury to the roof of the Tricurved Wing building, and he also left the mirror dimension through the portal. Your revenge. Nick Fury pointed at Salomon with one hand on his hip, his one eye stared at the mystic. I forgot that you were a narrow-minded high school student. Ha, this is the gentleman from Eton College demeanor. No, this is the result of your laziness. Salomon dismissed Nick Fury's accusations. Who told you to give Agent Hill so much work, causing her to spend a lot of time in the office sorting out documents? Don't you want me to open the portal in my office and have Agent Hill send you 2 bullets? I don't want a lady startled, that's the gentleman. If you don't use magic, Agent Hill can easily unscrew your head. Nick Fury said, she's an agent. Even if I use magic, there are still a few women who can easily twist my head off. Sexism has never existed in me, unless I want to die. Salomon's hand is like grabbing like a non-existent rocker turned, a new portal opened. White gentleman is trouble? Well, white people are trouble. Don't look at me like that, you're black, I'm Jewish, both are minorities ethnicity. But the difference is that one is wandering on the street and will be arrested without a receipt when he comes out of the supermarket, the other is counting money in the bank and squandering money to enjoy the services of white people. You see, the difference is not very big. Ha, now I know why you have the character you have today. Nick Fury looked into the portal, but the oncoming wind almost knocked him over. Forget it, I leave the portal in the air when I leave here, Salomon said. You think I won't be wary of you, Nick Fury? Now we're looking down on London. I thought we were friends. Hat. Salomon walked towards the portal against the howling wind, and when he was about to plunge in, he suddenly remembered something. Immediately afterwards, he turned around and said loudly to Nick Fury against the sound of the wind, you don't need to text me or call me these days, let alone track down the source of my signal. I think you should know that this is my surveillance of you. Nick Fury pointed to his one-eyed eye and shouted towards Salomon, under the surveillance of SHIELD. No, I mean, your signal can only be traced to Eden. Salomon said, Michael's semester is over, and I will keep the computer you gave me at school. I'm going to pack my luggage now, there's nothing to clean up though. You want to get out of my surveillance? Nick Fury asked. You can't track me unless AT&T has receivers out there. You're going to an alien planet? Is this your vacation? Just going to the coronation of a stupid alien prince? In the silent endless void, there is a dazzling and precipitous upside-down mountain peak. The top of this mountain is set off by vast encircling white clouds, and above the white clouds are thick rocks. There is a spring at the foot of this mountain, which is the root system of the world tree, and this root system also firmly binds this boundless rootless mountain in space. The incomparable magic and technology allowed the Asgardians to build their own city at the bottom of this floating mountain, build corridors on the steep foothills, and endless springs converged into oceans, from the edge of Asgard to the void pour down. Corresponding to the inverted mountain is a tall and huge golden palace and golden walls. It stands like a golden mountain in the center of Asgard, which is the palace of Odin, the father of the gods. Today is an extremely sunny day, and the whole city glows golden under the shining stars. There is a huge corridor on the road leading to the golden palace. 2 rows of tall golden armor stand on both sides holding weapons. Even the tall Asgardians are not as tall as the bases of those armors. Salomon and the Supreme Magus paced slowly along the passageway paved with marble slabs, and in front of them was a maid of the golden palace. At this time, Salomon had already changed the tuxedo and cloak of Eden College, and put on the black mystical robe and the red holy relic cloth again. He came here as an apprentice of Karmataj, a disciple of the Supreme Master, so he naturally needed to wear his own robe. And His Holiness is also wearing a black robe, but there is no magic on that robe, because His Holiness doesn't need it. As the Lord of Midgard with autonomy, the Supreme Mage came to Asgard and naturally received an extremely considerate reception. In fact, Salomon and the Venerable came to Asgard a few days ago, but neither Salomon nor the Venerable could accept Asgard's 2 rough eating habits. As the Venerable came out to get some air, since Odin, the father of the gods, and Frigga, the queen of heaven, were both busy with the upcoming event, they could only be accompanied by Frigga's personal maid. Asgard is a real feudal system, the power in the noble blood is completely different from that of the common people, and Frigg's maid is also a nobleman. Although she didn't know why Odin, the father of the gods, treated a mortal magician of Midgard so courteously, but the long lifespan far exceeding that of a commoner and the rich knowledge brought by sufficient education made this maid very clear about what she should do. Ask what not to ask. Even if she asked, only the father of the gods and the queen of heaven in Asgard could give the answer, but Odin obviously would not tell his embarrassing things, otherwise he would not have given a fake Argo. The motorcycle crystal ball is placed in the treasure house. The Supreme Mage took Salomon wandering around the streets and alleys of Asgard, explaining to Salomon how rune magic built this place. His Holiness thinks this is a good opportunity to open Salomon's eyes. Asgard's rune magic is not weaker than that of Vizendi's series of magic. His Holiness obviously doesn't want Salomon to learn magic feeling complacent, although the Supreme Master is not very good at teaching, even after such a long time. Most people in Karmataj rely on self-study, and only ask the Venerable if they cannot solve the problem, but she is still do your best to explain the rune magic you understand to Salomon. Salomon was obviously not an arrogant fool, he felt the magic here from the moment he followed His Holiness into Asgard. It was an unparalleled power, and the center of that power was the Golden Palace of Asgard. He could even call this magic great. He took the books that the Venerable had lent from the Asgard library, and compared them with the Venerable's narration while checking, because these books were absolutely impossible to appear in Karmataj's library. It was Sarah books that Lawman has never read. In fact, even Karmataj, who has collected most of the magic books on Earth, has very little research on rune magic. Salomon is extremely lucky to be able to understand rune writing. These books are far more important to him than the treasures in Odin's treasury. Asgard has made full preparations for this grand ceremony, and the hall of the Golden Palace is rarely open to all Asgardians. A skylight was opened above Odin's throne, and the sunlight streamed down from the window and gathered at the highest point of the hall. The rising golden throne was the most dazzling place in the hall, and the father of the gods was sitting on it holding Gungnir Superior. The maid reminded the Supreme Mage that the grand ceremony was about to begin. So the Venerable waved his hand, and moved the maid, Salomon, and herself from the corridor outside the palace to the steps on both sides of the throne. Salomon didn't even feel the trace of the Venerable's spell casting, and the maid was also dumbfounded. She looked around blankly, then hurried down the stairs, because she couldn't stand here in her capacity. Fortunately, the location chosen by the Supreme Mage was behind a golden column with reliefs, so no one noticed the maid. In front of the throne stood 2 rows of soldiers wearing golden armor. They stood silently, holding spears, and they didn't even move their eyes. This is the heroic soldier who is famous in Asgard's universe. As for where the real Valhalla and the heroic soldier are, that is a secret that only Odin knows. Frigga, who was dressed luxuriously, stood on the steps. She found the Supreme Master and Salomon, so the Queen nodded slightly to the Supreme Master, and the Venerable also nodded back. Salomon's etiquette was even more meticulous. And Odin, the father of the gods, seemed to have noticed the existence of the Supreme Mage and Salomon, but he didn't turn his head, didn't show any expression, and just stared at the farthest part of the long red carpet with one eye. Salomon saw that there was no happy expression on his face, and he felt that the All-Father seemed to know what was going to happen next. Salomon remembered the expression of the Supreme Mage before he set off, as if waiting for a good show to begin. Is it sudden? I also felt very sudden, because I drank a bottle of magic claw. End of this chapter. Chapter 97. All the residents of Asgard gathered in the vast golden palace. Suddenly, cheers like waves roared from the gate of the golden palace, and the arms and shouts were also turbulent like waves. Salomon saw a strong man wearing silver armor, a red cloak, and a silver wing helmet approaching from the other end of the long red carpet. He raised his warhammer in his hand. Cheering wildly, he was also full of laughter and kept waving his hands. He threw up the warhammer in his hand, and caught it easily, as if this was not some grand ceremony, but a celebration banquet after the adventure, which could be frivolous and indulgent. Odin, the father of the gods, never showed a smile from the beginning to the end, even his short snow-white beard never moved, and there was only hesitation in his one-eyed eyes. Standing on the left and right sides of the steps are Frigga, Loki, and Sif, who are members of the royal family. Sif is the wife of Sol that Frigga identified. On the other side are the three warriors of Asgard, who are Thor's comrades in arms or adventure partners, namely Fandral, Vestag, and Hogun. At this time, almost everyone's attention was focused on Sol, who was walking slowly, because he had prepared this coronation ceremony for him, including Loki. He did notice the rather mysterious Supreme Mage and Salomon, but he didn't take it seriously, and his attention was still focused on his little abacus. Obviously, Odin never told him about the Karmitage on Earth, otherwise he would have recognized the origin of the fake Agamotto crystal ball and another Agamotto artifact in the treasury. Moreover, even if he only had the origins of the Supreme Mage and Salomon, he would not take it to heart, because the position of the suzerain of Asgard had made him ignore the origin of the autonomy of the earth. The Supreme Mage and Salomon watched Thor walk down the stairs surrounded by cheers. He knelt down on one knee, put Mjolnir on the ground, and then took off his helmet. He even winked at his mother. Blinking, smiling at his partner. Odin, who was wearing golden armor, a golden horned helmet, and an eye patch, stood up from the throne. He paused the spear Gungnir in his hand. The dull sound spread throughout Asgard in an instant, and the cheering crowd all of a sudden quiet down. The All-Father looked at Thor at the bottom of the stairs, and the two crows named Hugin and Munin on both sides of the throne also turned their gazes to Thor. Is he stupid? Salomon lowered his voice and asked the Supreme Mage, he doesn't look very smart. Perhaps. The Supreme Mage nodded slightly, and their voices were completely inaudible to others. This is just a small trick, which Salomon transcribed into the Karmitage library, and His Holiness would check the new magic above with a novel reaction every time. Solution: the son of Odin. My heir, my eldest son. Odin's tone was calm, but anyone could hear the emotion in it. You have always held Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, the center of a dying star. Its power is extremely powerful, it is a weapon of destruction, and a tool of construction, only the king is qualified to possess it. From ancient times to the present, I have defended Asgard and the 9 kingdoms. I have countless life. Although a new king is about to take the throne. But you must not underestimate him. The Supreme Mage dismissed Odin's bragging, because the Venerable knew how cruel Odin's methods were to treat the enemy. In other words, as a king, it is impossible to sympathize with the enemy. The Supreme Mage, who is also the king of Midgard, understands the necessity of Odin's actions very well. If necessary, the Supreme Mage will use the same means as Odin. And this bloodshed will be borne by Salomon in the future. His Holiness said, in the future, Thor, the god of thunder, will be the king of Asgard, and you will also succeed one of my titles. As long as you perform well, your status is no less than his. I think I can buy him with a case of whiskey, or throw him in a Jack Daniels cask. Salomon looked at Saul, and he said, reckless, impulsive, doing things without thinking about consequences, combined with Aspengard has been in peace for a long time. I haven't seen any large-scale military operations in Asgard in the last 1,000 years. Sol's battle is more like an adventure. The growth environment of the Father of the Gods is very different from that of Solution. It is difficult for the heir of the All-Father to make progress. The reason why Salomon didn't say Odin's name was entirely because he didn't know Odin's level of magic. But the rune magic was created by Odin alone, so it must not be much worse than the Supreme Mage. Facing such an existence, no matter how careful he was, he felt that Odin was even stronger than the Queen of Sheba and Jubileus he had faced. I remember I told you about the origin of the Asgardian pantheon, and I'm not old enough to forget things. The Supreme Mage said, from Buli to Bauer, from Bauer to Odin, and from Odin to Odin's soul, their potential is stronger than the other, and they are extremely enviable talents. But your talent is not inferior to his, don't be discouraged, your greatest talent is your knowledge. Salomon knew that the Supreme Master's education was bad, but he didn't expect it to be this bad. One will be setback education, and the other will be encouragement education. If he is really just a 15 years old rebellious teenager, he might be confused by this contradictory education method. He has no interest in this coronation ceremony. This boring pageant is not even as attractive to him as the magic book in his hand and the game console in his bedroom in Karmitage, because he is not interested in this coronation ceremony. The result is well known. And he is not the only one who knows the result of the coronation ceremony well. Loki is one of the insiders, besides the supreme mage, Frigga, and Odin. Odin asked, "Do you swear to protect the 9 realms?" "I swear." Thor replied without hesitation. Odin asked, "Do you swear to keep the peace?" "I swear." Thor still didn't hesitate. Odin finally asked, "Do you swear that you can put aside your personal ambitions and work hard for the well-being of the 9 kingdoms?" "I swear." Sol laughed and held up Mjolnir. "Then today, I, Odin, the father of the gods, announce." Odin said, his only remaining eye suddenly turned to the side, looking at the supreme mage, the frost giant. It really happened. Odin stared at the supreme sorcerer, and everything was exactly as the supreme sorcerer said. Long before the enthronement ceremony, the supreme mage had told Odin about this situation, including all the things that might happen in the future and the risks Sol might face. Odin also knew that Sol was not a qualified heir. He is too impulsive and has various shortcomings, but Sol must inherit the throne, because only Thor can lead Asgard through Ragnarok. As the Queen of Heaven, Frigga also knew this possibility. Before the birth of the supreme mage, Frigga, the goddess of the sky and the earth, was the #1 magician in the 9 realms. Later, after the battle between the supreme mage and Odin, it was taken away, because although the supreme mage who held the Eye of Agamotto could not completely defeat Odin, Odin could not do anything about the supreme mage. After the Venerable brought Salomon to Asgard, while Salomon was taken to the room of Asgard by the maid, Odin, Frigga and the supreme mage had a secret conversation. The content of the conversation was known only to them, because Frigga asked all the maids to leave the room and refused anyone to enter, not even Sol and Loki. "That's your heir? The Holy Son who came to earth? The one who has something to do with heaven?" the father of the gods asked. "It looks very similar to Loki. Could it be that magicians have such a thoughtful personality?" "Hey!" Frigga's eyes widened. When she used magic to tease Odin's golden statue, Odin never said such a thing. "Yes, the heir who inherits my real power." The supreme mage picked up the wine glass and drank it expressionlessly, as if it was not some strong wine but light tea. "Why don't you let Thor get in touch with him?" said Odin. "Maybe they will become good friends and let him join the ranks of Asgard's warriors." "No, even if I agree, he won't be happy." The supreme mage said, "We are mystic mages, what we need is learning, not aimless adventures." He can't sway the power in his blood at will. "Look, it's happening all over again," said Odin. "The innocent king of Asgard and the sullen mage of Midgard. Are you sure he can hold on to earth?" "He may do better than me, and I believe in his ability." His Holiness said, "At least he has not been overwhelmed by that knowledge. He is well adapted to the life of Karmitage, and he will not be overwhelmed by that knowledge. Into madness. Sorry, old friend, you can understand my difficulties." Odin mentioned another thing, "My time is approaching, and you know what to do. I have already planned it. I am just a mortal. Such years and burdens are a bit unbearable for me. Now, my 2 heirs have been selected, and all I have to do is to cultivate them." The Supreme Master said, "Now, you can start your planning." The coronation ceremony was interrupted, and Odin led the soldiers to the treasure house. The Queen Frigga did not have any accidents. This is one of the possibilities, and she also knows who is behind the scenes. She glanced at Loki at the side, and arranged for the remaining soldiers to evacuate the civilians, and at the same time arranged for the guards in the Asgard to ensure that no fish slipped through the net. "Look, as I said, this coronation ceremony will be very exciting." The Supreme Mage pointed to Thor, who was full of anger and followed Odin's footsteps, and said, "You can now start planning how to deal with such an aspen." King Guard. Those who are worried about the growth rate of the protagonist can rest assured that time is still long. My big event is not limited to infinity gloves. Purple sweet potato essence is not the only enemy. The foreshadowing of the Ark of the Covenant has already been laid. The true function of the fingers will be revealed. Memory is only one aspect. However, due to the confusion of the comic book version, and the mutant characters mixed in, I had to make some changes. It felt like writing a script for Marvel Studios. Then, I found that many people misunderstood the 9 major camps. For example, lawful good is not the Holy Mother, but the benefactor camp of neutral good is the Holy Mother. This kind of situation where you don't know the 9 camps will make a wrong judgment on the protagonist's camp, so I will put the Jugaga and its explanation in the work. As for when, of course when I am free. End of this chapter. Chapter 98 Consciousness. Salomon felt that his plan did not need to be changed too much. For a naive and romantic guy like Saul, he believed that Jack Daniel's brewing barrel was enough to dismiss him. He would also like to steal a bottle of mead from the banquet if he could, when the poor blonde baby would probably need some comfort from home. And he couldn't help laughing at the thought of how pathetic the big guy looked. "Don't be too gloating," said the High Wizard, "Asgard is our partner. If Sol is still like that, then he will not be our partner, but our enemy. Moreover, I think my character and Sol must not be compatible." Salomon said, "Anyway, Asgard, there is still a candidate for the throne of Germany, isn't there?" The Supreme Master glanced at her disciple, and she always felt that there was something in Salomon's words. His Holiness thinks that Salomon refers to Loki, but in fact, Salomon refers to Hela, the goddess of death. If Odin's parenting plan fails, then he would rather form an alliance with Hela, provided that he can be with Hela. Draw a tie. Hela, who grew up bathed in blood, symbolizes the most brutal side of Odin. Just like Salomon, he will also represent the most cruel and ruthless side of the Supreme Mage. The attitude of the other heir is even worse. The Venerable turned his head and watched the heroic soldiers evacuate the civilians. "Only with iron and blood can the other heir accept you, just like what I did when I faced Odin. If you think you can handle it, it's worth a try, because the challenges ahead are tough and we need a strong helper, and it doesn't have to be Saul. We still have time, teacher." Salomon rubbed the blue gemstone on the index finger ring with his right thumb. "I have already figured out how to deal with the future, although that is not what many people want to see, but the future is always accompanied by the passing of life, whether it is your own or someone else's. But only those who are conscious can open up a bright path in the dark wilderness. Perhaps in the worst case, my life it will also end, but isn't it our responsibility to open up a path for mankind that should lead to a bright future?" This is not a beautiful word, but a side effect of the memory of the stigmata. The death of countless lives made Salomon not pay attention to his own and other people's lives. This side effect will become more serious as he grows older. The latter is still limited by the rules of Karmatage. Salomon has not yet had innocent blood in his hands, but this situation will not last long, because there will always be something to force him to do. He doesn't cherish his own life like ordinary traversers, and he won't hesitate when it's time to sacrifice himself. This kind of thinking is undoubtedly extremely crazy for the extremely selfish fourth natural disaster. Although the Supreme Mage wanted to let Salomon bear the darkest and bloodiest side when he adopted Salomon, when he heard these words from Salomon's mouth, the calm expression of the Supreme Mage was still clouded, not only because Salomon's ideas are too precocious, but also because the Supreme Mage does not want Salomon to ascend to the 7th throne of hell so early. Phoenix in Karmatage reminds the Supreme Mage, Salomon all the time. Meng is also responsible for the reincarnation of 200 years. "I want you to be happy, but I want you to bear the worst things, to carry what I have carried." I know this is contradictory. His Holiness said, "Sorry, Salomon, you are only 15 years old, you shouldn't have such thoughts at this age, and now you have not inherited my title, this is not something you have to take on now. I thought full-time school would make you think like your peers, but now it looks like I was wrong. I know what I should do now. And I also know what I should do in the future, teacher, there is no need for you to feel sorry." Salomon said with a smile, "Everyone should take responsibility, I am your disciple, this is also my responsibility. I know this stigmata is not a gift, I don't care about shit heaven, but Karmatage is my home. Although this home has no heating, it is always cold in the middle of the night, and it snows every day, but, that's still my home. What's more, there are people I love and people who love me in this world, that's enough, there are always some things that are more important than life. I'm very satisfied, Salomon, I'm really satisfied." The Supreme Mage said, "Now, we don't need to continue watching, Odin has already arranged the next thing, if things go well, there will be some growth. And I will also provide you with an opportunity. At the right time, you will face another heir of Asgard, and you have to bear the risk yourself." "I will, teacher." Salomon lowered his head and said, "I have the will to bear all this." The day after Frigga commanded the soldiers of the heroic spirit to guard the Asgard, when she looked back again, the Supreme Mage and Salomon had disappeared in place. The Empress took a deep breath, and turned around to arrange the maids around her, preparing to welcome Odin who had returned from the treasure house. The Supreme Mage has done what she can, and the next thing is to see Odin's arrangements. In the small town of Point Antigua, New Mexico, it was night at this time, and an RV was parked in the desert. The car was not turned off, and the headlights were still on. A woman sat among a pile of instruments, holding a pen in her hand, calculating parameters. She turned around and patted the seat. Daisy Louise, who was sitting in the driver's seat, pursed her lips and turned off the lights. Astrophysicist Jane Foster drilled out of the sunroof of the car roof with an unknown instrument in her hand, and put the instrument on the roof of the car. Her teacher, Eric Shavig, also drilled out together, watching his students busy up and down. After a while, the value of the meter reader in Jane Foster's hand returned to 0, and the night sky in New Mexico was still clear, and anyone could clearly see every star in the sky. The weather that should have been welcomed by the majority of astronomy enthusiasts made Jane Foster a little angry, because it was not what she expected. Wait and see. She was still full of anticipation. Can I listen to the radio? Daisy Louise asked. No. This proposal was rejected by Jane Foster without hesitation, and Daisy Louise shrank back into the driver's seat with a depressed face. She is Jane Foster's intern, but she is not a student of astrophysics, because Jane Foster, who has been studying this topic that is considered a fantasy by ordinary people, can't find an intern to come. Sharing her work, all the astrophysics students knew that Jane Foster's project would not be fruitful, and they privately called Jane Foster crazy. But it happened that Daisy Louise needed credits, otherwise she would need to retake the course, and Jane Foster also needed an intern who could help, so the two hit it off. Facts have proved that Jane Foster's eyesight is fine, although Daisy Louise can't help with calculations and can't understand her theory. She can see Daisy is a good mover at a glance because Daisy Louise has been burdened with sore shoulders since puberty. Jane, you can't go on like this forever. Eric Shavig kindly persuaded, but this undoubtedly made Jane Foster's mood even worse. The first 17 predictions can be accurate to the second. Jane Foster jumped back to her seat irritably, flipping through the records of the first 17 experiments, trying to find out the reason for her mistakes. Jane, you're an astrophysicist, not some crazy storm chaser. Eric Shavig refers to a group of people who drive and chase tornadoes in the U.S. hurricane belt. These storm riders have been chasing hurricanes as a LE. His student is one of the somewhat unrealistic connections between astrophysics and Earth's storms, as he sees it. But Jane Foster hastily retorted. I told you, she said, these atmospheric disturbances are related to my research. Eric, if I wasn't 100% sure, I wouldn't have let you fly over from England. Eric Savage sighed. Daisy Louise couldn't understand what her instructor was saying at all, she only knew that her shoulders were more sore, because today she moved all the instruments into the car, and Jane Foster could help not on. Suddenly, she saw a vision of the distant sky in the rearview mirror of the RV. It was the azure blue aurora piercing through the clouds. The wind blew the earth from the sky, and the clouds kept churning like waves. A large area of light illuminated the desert in the darkness, and a bright blue beam of light was transmitted through the dust. Although this was different from what she expected, Jane Foster hurriedly urged the interns to drive towards the storm. They saw a black hurricane descending from the sky, and all the silent sand and dust were immediately swept up, and the fine sand crackled on the car window. Daisy Louise slammed the steering wheel sideways, trying to drive away from the place. What are you doing? Shouted Jane Foster, holding a DV in her hand. I don't want to die here because of the 6 credits in the school. Daisy's eyes widened. But Jane Foster grabbed the steering wheel and tried to turn the car back. The intern yelled, it's just a storm, not a man. Why are you so anxious to jump on it? Suddenly, the center of the black tornado lit up, an array of light circled down with the thunder and bombarded the ground. Daisy saw the faint figure in the storm with the faint flash, but the speed of the vehicle was too fast. Even if Daisy stepped on the brake hard, the whole car still lost control and skidded, screaming and hitting the figure. Turned around in the desert a few times before stopping. This scene left the 3 people in the car stunned and speechless. They got out of the car quickly, flashlight, and ran towards the unlucky guy. They didn't come to cause traffic accidents, but to observe astronomical phenomena. Who knew that this drunk or drug addict would suddenly appear in front of their car? I think from a legal point of view, it's your fault. Daisy Louise's voice was crying. She came to earn credits, not to go to jail. Ruined, it's all over, she shouldn't have followed this unscrupulous mentor. Hurry up and get the first aid kit. Jane Foster squatted in front of this man, she shone a flashlight on his face. Do me a favor, don't die. Oh. Daisy Louise smacked her lips, who knew that this guy had such a good figure. Does he need artificial respiration? I can do artificial respiration. Sol was thrown over the rainbow bridge before he recovered from the shock of being exiled. He raised his head, looked at the woman in front of him, and finally lay back on the ground weakly. Where did he come from? Jane Foster saw that his face was very clean and his beard was trimmed. He didn't look like a drug addict, nor did he smell alcohol, much less a drunk. There are no vehicles or means of transportation around here. Could it be that this guy came here? Why did he walk in the desert at night? Why are you here? Joan of Arc came home from get off work and saw Salomon half lying on the sofa. She asked in surprise, shouldn't you go to some ceremony? I'm waiting for love to ferment. Salomon held the cat in his arms and half closed his eyes. He said, it's not mine, but the idiot prince's. The supreme mage even counted the father of the gods into it. End of this chapter. Chapter 99 Private Purpose. Salomon called Sol the idiot prince or the idiot prince, but in fact Sol was not stupid, he was just too lazy to use his brain. It can be solved with his hammer. If one hammer fails, then two hammers can always be solved. Before Salomon was worried that Jane Foster was not interested in the sexy hunk Sol, so he prepared a bottle of love elixir, ready to find a chance to put this bottle of rose-colored liquid with heart-shaped bubbles floating in the two of them. In people's diet. But when he watched the whole process of Thor falling from the sky in the mirror dimension, seeing Jane Foster after being hit by a car, Salomon was relieved, because Jane Foster almost touched Sol. The pectoral muscles are gone. Is there anything wrong with this? In fact even Jane Foster's adorable busted trainee is hooked, because the allure of the muscular hunk is unmatched. As for whether Sol will take the bait, Salomon thinks that this guy who often lacks a string in his brain will bite even if he sees a hook. All in all, this matter has nothing to do with him, but according to the content of the contract he signed with Nick Fury, in the case of a large-scale disaster on the magic side, and with Salomon's knowledge, Nick Fury must be notified in advance to protect the lives of innocent people. Since this contract was witnessed by Weiss Sandy, the terms in it are also extremely fair, and neither Salomon nor Nick Fury can violate it as for finding loopholes in the contract and distorting the interpretation of the terms. That is an act of lawful evil. Both Salomon and Nick Fury are familiar with this method, one is out of instinct, the other is through years of accumulated experience. No one is necessarily more innocent than the other. The supreme mage let go of Salomon, who was trying to be lazy, and the mystic immediately got into Bayoneta's apartment after getting the vacation permission, but Joan of Arc, who had just dealt with the bear child and the bear parent, was obviously not very polite to Salomon. I do all your laundry, said Joan, I am not your servant, mystic. I wash dishes too. Salomon's eyes widened. I also cook and mop the floor. But when you were in school, Bayonetta and I could only see you twice a day. Noon and night. Should I still thank you for cooking for us? Jean said loudly, unbuttoning his black tie. She was wearing a dark red suit today, but she was wearing nothing but a suit jacket on her upper body. Half of her full breasts were exposed. And the black tie was stuffed into the suit jacket, covering part of her beautiful skin. This elegant dress combined with her tall figure was also the source of her troubles today. Some teachers thought it was inappropriate for her to dress like this, but Joan of Arc, who didn't care about office politics at all, didn't take their advice and still went her own way. Then you can cook too, said Salomon. Where is Bayonetta? She went shopping for groceries. Joan said angrily, she knows you are going to come here for dinner tonight, and I rarely see that expression on her face. I warn you, you have to make her happy, although she will definitely not admit that she is so happy because she saw you. I regard her as my family, maybe in the future. Salomon said, but now, I'm only 15 years old. 15 years old can have children. Hearing Joan of Arc's words, Salomon rolled his eyes. He almost forgot that Joan of Arc had lived more than 500 years. At that time, the phenomenon of getting married and having children during adolescence was innumerable all over the world. In this country, the age of majority is 21, Salomon said. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Hat. Joan sneered, I don't care about these things. Now, give me the Cheshire Cat, and you go and wash the dishes left over from the previous few days. You may not believe it, I have cleaned all the dishes. Salomon had ordered the invisible servant to clean the whole house before Joan came back, from the time he went to Asgard until he returned. Earth, for several days in a row, the sink has been filled with dirty dishes, which is completely intolerable to him. Very good. Joan of Arc took off her suit jacket and threw it on the sofa, as if she didn't care about the fact that she didn't wear anything at all. By the way, I also washed my clothes. Next time we arrange a housework roster. Salomon picked up the clothes and went out. Next time you wash the dishes, I will do the laundry. Now, you hurry to put on your pajamas, I don't want Bayonetta to misunderstand what's up. Good evening, Joan of Arc. Good evening, little one. Bayonetta turned the lock and walked in, carrying a basket of vegetables and raw meat in her hand. Her grey eyes narrowed behind her glasses. Oh? Did I miss something? The dressing styles of Americans and Britons are very different. This gap is so big that even a white American can be easily distinguished on the streets of London. After all, there are not many people in the UK who can wear red checkered shirts and belts. Wearing a brown baseball cap. But in the United States, this kind of freestyle dressing style is not uncommon. Salomon believes that this is because of American culture. He feels that Americans seem to be able to party everywhere, especially in rural towns in New Mexico. This is a typical town built because of mineral resources, maybe because of coal, maybe because of gold mines, but in any case, when the company withdrew, the town went into irreversible decline. The economic recession led to the fact that the only bar in the town opened 20 years ago. There are no strip clubs, no jobs, and young people can only be punks, wandering the streets and shops with nothing to do. Perhaps because of the lack of entertainment, when the people here found a hammer that could not be lifted anyway, they quickly set up stereos and barbecue grills here. And some people drove trucks to move several cases of cold beer in the bar come over. They lined up, trying to pull out the hammer one by one, and it didn't matter if they failed, just drink a bottle of beer and try again. Salomon was wearing a red holey cloth, sitting next to the grill, with a small stool under his buttocks, which was also brought by the locals. He came here to monitor the progress of the incident and have breakfast. By the way, the people here are very friendly to him, perhaps because he is the youngest and speaks politely. Salomon, who has been treated kindly, has already eaten half of the sausage on the grill. Overall, he is very satisfied. As for what happened yesterday, it was just a joke made by Bayonetta. She would not think that Joan of Arc had anything to do with Salomon. The witch is very familiar with things like exposing her skin, so it is no big deal at all. It's just that Salomon could only sleep on the sofa last night, and he didn't even have a cat to hug. It's too difficult to guess a woman's mind. In fact, he had informed Nick Fury before coming here, and he told Nick Fury that the thing that fell from the sky had something to do with aliens and the magic side. Salomon's warning made Nick Fury's nerves collapse the most, because Salomon's whereabouts were exactly as he said, completely disappeared from the earth for a few days, and no cameras captured him. Nick Fury only then did Fury believe that he had gone beyond the earth. And Nick Fury did not find anything from Howard Stark's box that Salomon might be interested in, which made him feel that things were a bit tricky, because it made him unable to figure out Salomon's thoughts. This is a fatal intelligence gap, but due to the contract, Nick Fury can't ask other people for help, so he can only investigate independently. But now Tony Stark needs the documents in this box again, and his symptoms of palladium poisoning are getting worse and worse. The medicine given by Salomon can only temporarily relieve his symptoms. The super recovery potion was handed over to Natasha, and she was asked to pour it into Stark's vegetable juice. Maybe Tony Stark would have died a long time ago because that idiot is too stubborn. Until now, don't go for hemodialysis, and even start to give up on yourself. Salomon picked up a piece of sausage and stuffed it into his mouth again. He stood up and was about to leave, because with his own vision, he saw a black car parked here from a distance. The agent with a kind face stepped out of the car. Salomon didn't want to meet with the rest of SHIELD, he'd better leave as soon as possible. As for the hammer, he wasn't even interested in trying it, because even Captain America couldn't lift it this time. The spell on it was completely Odin's shady, and only Soul could lift it. It's just a pity that the Black Uncle made the barbecue and iced Coke. Who knows if SHIELD will confiscate the grill as well. He also has a very personal purpose in killing time here, which is to wait for the town hospital to draw a tube of blood for solution. That's the blood of Thor. If that thing is obtained by SHIELD, it is entirely possible to make a clone of Thor with their troublemaking ability. Salomon was ready to accept that thing without hesitation. As for the passage, he had to think again, but with his excellent necromancy, at worst he could make a flesh and blood golem that could release lightning. Even without a mental golem might also be able to lift Thor's hammer. That's a good thing, he's always been bitter about not having a golem to help him block the knife. I didn't know there was beefcake for breakfast tonight. Beefcake means stripper macho. Darky Louise watched Saul come out of the toilet with a t-shirt in one hand and his shirt off his waist. He's still in pretty good shape for a crazy homeless bum, quipped. This morning, they set off to the hospital in the town again, because Darcy found that the photos taken clearly showed a figure in the storm, and unfortunately, Jane Foster drove down the man again. Dude, Daxie even thought that she was really going to jail, but fortunately, that guy was fine. She also found that her mentor, Jane Foster, was absent-minded for the first time, frequently looking up at the tramp. I'm sure, her mind is definitely not on those data. Daxie said with a smile, she has been vacant for a long time, and even homeless people don't mind. Darcy. Sorry, ha 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 ha. End of this chapter. Chapter 100 The Sovereign Country. Darcy was always pissing off Jane Foster. From the time they'd known each other, Darcy was always asking stupid questions and bugging her with little things, but she was still Jane's best friend. Although Daxie is a student majoring in social sciences and knows nothing about astrophysics, she still came to this small town with Jane Foster. Relying on a small budget, she came to this sparsely populated town and rented an abandoned Smith car. In the industry, it's not just for credits. Well, while the credits account for most of the factor, there are 3 free meals on top of that, as well as reimbursement for nail polish. Jane cherishes this friendship, but it does not prevent her from being angry with Darcy, nor does it prevent Darcy from making her angry. Darcy felt that she and Jane had evened out, and since Jane stopped her from stealing Vicodin from the hospital pharmacy, she always wanted to get angry with her mentor. Jane Foster angrily told Darcy to shut up, but she still felt parched. At this time, she no longer looked like a scientist, but more like an ordinary person. At least she looked more like that when she ripped off the Dr. Donald Blake tag on the t-shirt with a face full of embarrassment. After Saul changed his clothes, he began to walk around the laboratory, and Jane Foster followed him all the time. Saul looked at the various drawings and data pasted on the drawing board and the wall, as well as a group of photos that Darcy had just posted, and his figure appeared in the captured storm. What were you doing there? Jane walked over and asked, pointing to the picture. Curiosity for science made her temporarily forget her distracting thoughts and focus on seeking answers. What else can you do on the Rainbow Bridge? Saul shrugged and said disapprovingly. Rainbow Bridge. Jane jotted down the word in her notebook. She still has many questions, such as why was he there, who is he? Although these sounds a bit unbelievable and somewhat contrary to the spirit of science, she always felt that the man in front of her could answer her questions. Oh, ask a bum to solve astrophysics. Although he had a handsome face and a strong body, and he didn't stink of drunk sweat or junky excrement, he was still a bum. Jane felt that she might really be crazy to have such an idea. My mortal body has weakened, Thor said. He meant that he was hungry. And although the others couldn't understand him, Thor's growling stomach made it clear. Suddenly, Thor suddenly turned his head to look behind him, and he had a very familiar feeling, as if Loki was behind him. What's wrong? Jane looked behind Saul, but saw nothing. No, Thor turned back suspiciously, nothing. Just when Jane took Sol to the only restaurant in the town for dinner, Salomon's figure came out from the whirling sparks. Sol's original ward location, but he not only found nothing, but was almost discovered by Sol's intuition. Because Sol was only sealed with divine power, the basic physical attributes were reduced, but the basic spiritual attributes were not weakened, and intelligence, charm, and perception remained at the original level, and after the divine power was sealed, these senses were no longer controlled by solution ignored, everything began to work again, and because Sol was very familiar with magic, it was really a normal thing to perceive the existence of magic. Salomon decided to go to the hospital by himself to find out Sol's blood sample. This is quite a troublesome matter. Although the town is sparsely populated and the total number of patients is not large, he has no idea of the location of Sol's original ward before that, let alone what the doctors did to solution check, how many tubes of blood were drawn. This is important, because he doesn't want Thor's blood samples to fall into the hands of SHIELD, even if there is no Hydra in this SHIELD, these guys are also good at causing trouble. A hammer, Nick Fury said on the phone. The meteorite we detected was just a hammer. Yes, sir, Coulson said. It's unbelievable, but it's true. And no one can lift the hammer. A bystander tried to drag the hammer with a vehicle, but it still didn't work. And we also detected a large amount of electromagnetic waves released by the hammer. It is preliminarily estimated that it may have an impact on civil aviation airliners. Coincidentally, there is an astrophysicist in a nearby town. She should have recorded the situation that night. Just follow the general regulations. Nick Fury paused for a while, then continued, I will have other instructions later. Okay, sir. After Coulson hung up the phone, Nick Fury nestled on the sofa and thought for a while. Salomon had already explained to him that this incident was related to aliens and magic, but Salomon disclosed very little information. Nick Fury suddenly thought of the enthronement ceremony of the alien prince that Salomon mentioned before, and his intuition told him that the two must be related. An agent doesn't need evidence, he just needs an intuition, which is extremely important in an agent's career. Nick Fury called Salomon's cell phone, and when the Mystic Master answered the phone, he immediately asked this question. Salomon also readily admitted that although he did not disclose too much information, Nick Fury still associates two things together. This is a bloody battle for the throne. Salomon held his mobile phone in one hand and was flipping through the hospital's medical records with the other. But this is not something you can intervene in. What the hell do you know? Nick Fury said in a serious tone, didn't you say that the Earth is the kingdom of the Supreme Mage? Why did it have something to do with this matter? You have to tell me the relationship, I want to know this matter. Does it affect the Earth? The Earth is only one of the territories of the Supreme Mage. In fact, the entire solar system is the territory of the Supreme Mage, because the entire solar system can be regarded as a star field, but the other planets are too barren. Salomon said. The doctor stole the access control card from his pocket, and the mage's hand can always be used when stealing things, but there is more than one star field in the universe. We live in the 9 star fields connected by the World Tree. Midgard is one of Asgard's vassals. Nick Fury was silent. Salomon didn't know whether he felt frustrated because he knew the vassal status of the Earth, or he was looking for information, but for a long time, Salomon never heard anything from the other end of the phone. Sound. At this time, he had already walked into the examination room of the hospital, pinched his nose, and deftly avoided the urine test samples of the addicts in the town. Midgard, Asgard, do you mean that those gods really exist? Nick Fury finally spoke, but his voice was extremely serious. Magic exists, why can't gods exist? Last time I invited you to see the scenery of hell, but you thought it was a threat. Salomon said, the gods you think all exist, it's just that it's not on Earth now. But I can't explain to you the specific reasons and the current status of those gods, because some of the situations I know, some I don't know, some of the situations I know but you can't know, and some of them I don't know. You can't know what you don't know. Then what can you tell me? Don't go around in circles, Salomon, you know these situations are dangerous, I want to know what the attitude of those gods is towards humans. And Asgard, why does Thor's hammer will fall to the earth? Nick Fury said, it took me a few minutes to read the Norse mythology, but those stories always have deviations. I think it is very likely that the primitive tribes identified those aliens as gods. Just aliens with high tech. Whatever you think, I can only say that magic really exists. Although Asgard can't be called a god, their technology and magic level are among the best in the universe, and their civilian lifespan is 5,000 years. The father of God even lived for 100,000 years. Salomon tore off the disposable gloves and put them on his hands, checking the serial numbers of the blood samples one by one. I can also tell you the reason why the hammer fell to Advent, I was there at the time. Along with that hammer, Thor, the god of hammer, came to Earth with that hammer, and the god of hammer will not be too far away from his hammer. Where is he? Also, why is he on Earth? He did a wrong thing and recklessly started a war between Asgard and Jotunheim, so he was banished from Asgard by the All-Father, said Salomon. Thor, the god of thunder, was sealed by the father of the gods, and his body was weakened into a mortal. That is to say, now as long as a mortal with a knife can complete the act of killing gods. Salomon heard Nick Fury breathing heavily, and he knew what this guy was thinking, because whether Asgard was a god or an alien, Thor was a target of great research value. But Nick Fury is not a hot-headed politician, he is an agent, and soon he calmed down, recalling the status of Asgard in the universe mentioned by Salomon before, and the secret hidden in Salomon. The malice in Mongolian words. Exile, he asked. So Thor is no longer the heir to the throne? Who is the heir to Asgard now? Tyr? Or Baldur? Also, how long is this exile? What is Odin's attitude towards Thor? Can we? This is just a family education. Salomon said, there is one and only Sol as the heir to the throne of Asgard, there is no other possibility, because Odin thinks Sol is, he is, this is something that no one can change of. You mean, this is a little adventure arranged by Odin for Thor? Nick Fury asked, but what will it bring to Earth? Thor's friendship, said the mystic, if he survives. What if he dies? If he died at the hands of the Asgardians, then even the father of the gods has nothing to say. Salomon said, but once he died at the hands of the earthlings. I think, even the supreme mage nor will it hinder the vengeance of the father of the gods. Tell me where Thor is. Nick Fury shouted loudly, also, tell me, Asgard's military strength. It's stronger than the Kree Empire. Asgard has the Rainbow Bridge, and they have the fastest army deployment speed in the universe. Salomon said, do you still want to play dumb, Nick Fury? I believe you know how strong the Kree Empire is, that bully Carol Danvers must have told you. End of this video. Like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more novels like this.